What are we talking about? Come on, man. 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 How many push-ups you want to do here, pal? Oh, come on, man. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. What is he doing? Come on, man. Give me a little break here. But everybody knows who this guy is. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, man. Get a life.
Come on, son.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Come on, man. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. You're making money. Come on. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. If you can just give me one quick second. All right, cool. Responding to a quick text message. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Critically Drinking. I am Rashawn, and we are handling Come On, Man. We're doing that today with Mandrell, who will be with us shortly. So bear with me. We do have a few videos to go through. Let me just acknowledge the fellas in the chat, because we are having a man chat. We're gonna have a manversation today. Gonna have a manversation. What up, big homie? We got Truth and Purpose in the building, man. Salute to you, sir. Roberto's Perspective. What up, my guy? Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. I do have to say though, I've been a little aggy this week, so I might slip into some misogyny. I'm going to try to keep that back, but I do have to say, I've been hearing a lot of conversations from a lot of different angles, from a lot of different people. Hot advice, yeah? Hot advice, yes. I do have some hot advice here. It is a hot take, and I'm just going to start it off with this, man. I'm just going to start it off with this. Men, I'm sorry to say this. Anything regarding manhood, anything regarding masculinity, even if you're a hate watcher, man, please stop listening to women. Just please. I'm going to just leave it there. Right, actually, matter of fact, you can't even listen to most of the men. But we'll get to that. We will get to that. But it's just, I've heard some problematic things. Unfortunately, the barrier of entry to have a platform and to work the algorithm, to have a following, it doesn't require character. It doesn't require insight. It doesn't require information. It just requires an opinion. It just requires any feeling that you have. And come on, man. We got to do better. We got to do better. But I do want to play a couple of videos today to point out my train of thought. It's not really going to be about women. I'm just saying it may come up at some point. Like I said, a little aggy. But let me get to it real quick. The first thing I want to talk about is how we do not typically. It doesn't require a degree, evidence, a train of thought that we can follow through to a logical conclusion. We can just say some stuff. And if we say it the right way, man, people will just buy it. I've seen so many men and women, with some of the largest following saying some of the most nonsensical things, and people are in there like amening it up, like just high-fiving it just all day. I'm like, wow, it's crazy. What up, Bree? What up, Kansas Ann? Welcome, ladies. I'm going to play this quick video. Empathy, sympathy. Yeah, man, Chris, classic alpha, man. Make sure y'all into wrestling, man. Make sure you check out my guy. Take It Home podcast as the platform. Just had a live interview yesterday. Has a lot of video, car vlogs. Does some promotional material. Will have his wrestling event. So there are quite a few things. Make sure if you're into wrestling at all, as Yella said, support a black wrestler. Take It Home podcast, man. Let me see if I always forget because I don't use these often enough. Make sure you check out my guy's channel over there. Take It Home podcast here on YouTube. If it doesn't come up, blame Nightbot. There you go. Hot takes, yeah? Hot takes, yeah? All right, but let me pull up this video real quick. This is the first thing I want to, man, hot welcomes here. Hot welcomes. First thing I want to play is this video because one of the things we do not do in a lot of conversations about masculinity, femininity, humanity, anything, is talk about different domains, like an understanding of how the different areas and zones, or whatever you want to call it, aspects, prism, whatever you want to call it, of life actually occur. There are multiple facets of our daily life. I just want to play this real quick.
I'm going to say that one more time. There are 7 life domains. We have a spiritual health domain, a financial health domain, a mental health domain, a physical health domain, an intellectual health domain, an emotional health domain, a social health domain, and an environmental health domain. We do not talk about the rest of these other domains outside of the financial health domain. Very rarely do we talk about them. And when we do talk about them, they're not to the same extent as we talk about the financial domain. Like what? How can we be having conversations around creating healthy relationships or creating healthy foundations for relationships if we're not even examining all of the healthy foundations of ourselves?
So that is indeed a great question. How can we possibly be online having conversations about relationships if we're not talking about all of the different domains that a relationship exists in? It's not just in the finance. I know we spend a lot of time arguing about money online as far as relationships go. We talk a little bit about emotional health as far as relationships go. Some of the men that talk about physical health, like Mandrell right here. Hello, Mandrell. Talk about your physical health, being disciplined, having a martial mindset, doing something with your body, staying healthy and active. Those conversations don't get the same type of traction. So there is a problem when we're having a conversation that's kind of like across 10 to 12 domains of life, but we're only talking about 2 aspects of it. And let me shout out Truth, man. What's up? I'm doing good, big homie. How you feeling, bro? Beautifully animated speaks. Hello, hello. First time seeing you. Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, man, how you feeling, Mandrell?
I'm okay. Feeling pretty good today. What's up, beautifully animated speaks? Thank you for coming. Y'all made the announcement last night on my show that I was going to be here today, hopefully to bring some more viewership your way. You know, because I think this is a channel that I believe in, and I think it needs a lot more eyes on it than it actually gets. This is one of those channels that should have 1 million subscribers minimum.
I appreciate the kind words, but I wouldn't say all that because I'm a little off. I'm a little off.
No, but the thing is, we all are though. We're all off to some degree. You know what I mean?
I'm with you.
To some degree, we all are. But
thank you.
No, Truth. I do not have a belly. Okay. Thank you very much. I do not. But hey, Bree, how you doing? I like Bree. She's a sweet woman. Lazy, but sweet woman. By her own admission now, I'm not making that up. She said when she described she described it, because when she first said it, I'm lazy. I was like, nah, she's not lazy. Yeah, she's just putting on. Then she described it, I was like, ooh, you know what? I actually met people like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it like made it real to me. She made it real to me because I've met people like that, and I was like, yeah, I've seen it before. But yeah, you're right. And the thing is, what people don't know about health, physical health, is that your mind and body are directly connected. Your physical health directly affects your mental health. Your mental health also directly affects your physical health. For example, you ever been in a relationship, you had your heart broken, or know someone who had their heart broken, and they lose like 20 pounds in 2 weeks? Yeah. Like they lose a lot of weight really fast, right? The mental part that's suffering, but it's affecting the physical body, you know? And people just overlook that. They don't think about it. It never comes up because no one talks about it. I do. But on my shows, when I talk about fitness, where's the viewership?
Hey,
People
I
even
get
leave
it.
the live. People will jump into the live to see what I'm talking about, but then they see I'm talking about fitness. I'm talking about health and what to eat, and I'm giving people answers. Here's what you should eat. Here's what they mean by 5 meals a day. They don't mean 5 real meals a day. I mean, like, they'll have a breakfast, which is small, or a big breakfast, but then they'll have a protein shake at like 10 a.m. That's a meal. That counts as a meal. So they have another one like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That counts as another meal. So you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have 2 protein shakes a day. That's 5 meals a day. That's what they're counting as 5 meals. They're not talking about 5 plates of food.
Right.
You know, I mean, or you have for a meal, you have a handful of nuts or fruit or something like that. Not a big bowl of fruit. But, you know, people, when it comes to content that's going to help people, like when I do my shows on finances, financial literacy, and I tell people I did a show on the difference between 401k and Roth 401k and the significance of 401k, Roth 401k, and Roth IRAs. What they were, what they are meant for, what they do, how they work, why I prefer Roth 401k over just regular 401k. It's because I told people, like, I max out my Roth 401k every year. I think the max you can put in is like $6,000. Like, I put that into the Roth 401k every year, you know, and that's money that's already taxed. So when 20, 30 years from now come up and I go to draw that money out, you can't touch it with the new taxes. You know what I'm saying? So, and I told people that. Where was the viewership, Arshawn?
Hey, I'm one of those people. Hey, you're talking about me.
People,
hey,
why don't you watch these things? You know they're only going to help you.
But I'm gonna tell you though, because I know I'm not ready to commit to the discipline that finances and physical health take. So a lot of times that content is just like, it adds a little layer of shame. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. We know we're not, like, you ever heard church people talk about, man, I want to get myself right before I go back to church? Like, or people that want to do something, they want to lose weight before they go to the gym because they don't want to be fat in the gym.
But that's counterproductive.
It is, but we have a lot of self-sabotaging mindsets. We have a lot of them. A lot of them.
Do you need an accountability partner?
I do. I know. But I'm willing to admit it. I'm willing to admit it. That way, maybe somebody else will too.
Yeah. That's the thing. Fair enough. Because I know a lot of people hire trainers for the accountability. Yeah, you're going to get the workout, and if it's a good trainer, they're not going to count your warm-ups and the cardio as the workout. They don't count that. No, they're not going to count that. Good trainers, okay, we're going to warm up for about 10 minutes. I have you warm up for 10 minutes. Okay, now the clock starts. After the warm-up. Once you start the first exercise, now the clock starts. Now it starts? Yeah, you didn't count that? No. Why? Because I want you to work. You pay me to work you out for 60 minutes, right? Right. You're going to get 60 minutes of a workout. You can quit anytime you want to. But you're going to get 60 minutes of my time today.
Man.
Of a workout. Because I want you to get out of here and in 3 months have results. You're not going to have, my reputation's on the line. If you've been with me 3 months, you didn't lost any weight, don't go to Mandrell. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I was with him 3 months and I lost no weight. That affects me. You know what I'm saying? So I have to show up and I have to work you out. Like my last client, he lost 20 pounds in like 6 weeks when I was working with him, and I was just teaching him boxing.
That's nice.
Yeah, I ran him through a bunch of boxing drills, hitting the mitts and everything, teaching them punches, teaching them combinations, you know. And then I had him doing calisthenics, and I had him doing a little weight training, just a little, you know. And right, LA fitness trainers, you're right. They don't want to be there, Bree. They just all right, just do some lunges now. Okay, lunges. All right. Now we're gonna move on to the what's this thing over here? This machine. I forget the name of it. But we're gonna do this. Yeah, you get some trainers like that. You know what I'm saying? So I take it seriously because, again, my reputation's on the line. Like, Arshawn, if I'm your accountability partner and in 4 months You lost 5 pounds, Arshawn, you ain't going to the gym.
Oh, for sure not. Absolutely.
Because you're at the point where, like, I would start you off very slowly. I wouldn't have you hitting weights yet. Your first 2 weeks period would be cardio, nothing intensive, nothing super hard.
Know.
Right.
The weight would just start coming off. Already know. Right.
So
it's sad.
But I mean, have we not made time on our schedule for these types of things?
It's not about time. Like I told you, it's discipline. I told you it's discipline because what I did do, because I never really cared enough to try. That's why I'm starting this stuff, because I'm doing something productive as opposed to the nothingness I was doing. So what I started with in 2021, October, I started cutting out sugar. So between October 21 and I'll say now, I've lost 65 pounds. I plateaued at losing 65 pounds, just cutting out sugar. Like, that's how much weight was just coming from the way I was consuming juice and soda. Like, all of that just came off without adding anything else to it. Like, without salads, without kale, without exercise. It was just the sugar.
Cutting out sugar. And here's the thing. People would be amazed. People think, no, there's too much fat in that. Fat is not the problem, and it never has been. Sugar is the devil. Okay? And the problem is that I like soda, Arshawn.
Man, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I really like soda, right? So that's one of the reasons why I deprive myself of it. I know I really like it. A cold soda.
So now I'm on like water. I got Propel.
Arshawn, water. 62.
Yeah. I keep water, room temp and cold. So I mean, it's like
yeah. I mean, so and even me, I've actually started now. I've gotten serious about my workout, serious about my diet, because I'm on the move with some stuff, and I'm gonna need to be at a certain point before I make the big move. Yeah, because I'm moving to another state later this year.
Okay.
And before I do that, I got to be at a certain point. You know what I'm saying? Because my health can't be something that, oh, should I got to lose weight? No, bruh. You should have worked. It's like, no, certain things have to be done. You know what I'm saying? Like, so there's that. There's that. And, but honestly, and again, it's like I told you before, you and Bree, it's not like people who go to the gym all the time want to go to the gym all the time.
Yeah.
There are days we just don't feel like doing it. We don't feel like it. But after we're doing the workout, it's like, I'm so glad I did that. I'm so glad I forced myself to stop watching Regular Ragnarok season 2 and got up, or playing God of War Ragnarok, and forced myself to get into the gym and work out this morning. You know, I'm so glad. You feel so much better, and you feel it's a feeling of accomplishment too once you do it.
Yeah,
you know, it's like that. So that's one thing, everybody. The guys you see deezed up, and then the gym, and most of those guys are on steroids anyway. A lot of those guys are juicing. They're just not telling you. No, it's all natural. People like me who know better. Yeah. Like, I know the difference between a naturally built, well-built, natural body and a guy who's on juice, the naughty sauce, as we call it, or I call it. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, yeah, dude, you're juicing. There's one guy who's like 2 inches shorter than me, twice my width. This dude has huge beach balls for shoulders. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like, okay, bruh. Bruh. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was so misproportioned. It's like, no, dude, no. Why? Why do you need to be that big? I want to be functional. I want to be able to move. I need to be quick. I need to be effective.
Yeah.
So if I get into an altercation on the street, and altercations, street fights don't happen often. I know that. No. However, when they do happen, in the off chance it does happen, you need to be ready, prepared to at least move. You know what I'm saying? But you throw 3 punches and you're out of breath. Okay, now what?
Right.
Because people think fighting.
That's real.
Oh, I can do. People think a lot of. I've had so many people come up to me. Oh, you teach boxing? Oh, I can do that. Really? Yeah. I got some gloves. You want to try it? Yeah, man. Yeah. Most of them say, nah, not right now. I'm gonna go over there. I got some stuff to do. Like, and then they'll go over there and lift weights or whatever, do cardio. Most of them say no. They don't even want to try it. They just come over there and talk trash, and they really do think that they can do it though. They think boxing
absolutely.
is easy. But then when I put those gloves on them, and I just have them hit the miss. And Arshawn, there's most guys. I just teach them the punches, how to punch correctly.
You don't even have to do that.
Like, here's how you punch correctly: jab,
Mm-hmm.
and you twist. You twist. Your fist should be like this when you connect, like this when you connect. That's your goal, to twist your fist as you punch. That's what you should try to do, right? That's the correct way to throw a jab. And I teach them how to throw the right cross, right? Those two punches, Rashawn. And I'll take them one round, practicing that. And I see them already. Already. I only taught you 2 punches, dude. Keep in mind, this ain't a boxing workout. I just taught you 2 punches. You're already breathing hard.
Oh, yeah.
So when I asked, one guy was Billy Badass. He said, well, all right, let's go a whole round then. Okay.
Yeah.
Went a whole round. He didn't make it the round, Arshawn.
No, of course not. I already know. I saw something a long time ago, Mandrell. Long time ago. And the guy was like, most people can't stand and punch air for 60 seconds without getting winded. So then I tried it and I got winded. And I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. Because you think in your head, you can fight another person with all of their size and weight, but you can't fight air for 60 seconds. Like, you cannot go against nothing without form training or anything. I'm like, wow, most people get exhausted.
And that's zero resistance. Like you said, you're fighting air. There's no one on the other end resisting you. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, see, like fighting, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of breath. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of breath to feed those muscles from a punch.
That's not including getting hit.
That's not including taking damage and recovering. Or like you said, dodging, which takes breath and functional movement. You know?
Yeah, man. Jesus Christ. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that today pretty much. That is actually kind of where we're going to be going to. Not so much from the physical, but from the social. We talked about the 7. I'm going to go back over the 7 domains: spiritual, financial, mental, physical, which is where Mandrell's talking about right now, intellectual, emotional, social, and environmental domains of life. So we're going to talk a little bit about the social in a roundabout way, because again, Bree's tired of listening to it. That's hilarious. I want to catch up.
Yeah, Bree said, I'm tired. I think it's the sad part is, I hear, I'm reading it, but I hear her voice saying it.
Yeah.
I'm tired. I'm tired just listening to it.
I
can't do a voice. I can't do a voice.
No, I feel you. I can't do it either.
Sorry, Bree. I know I can't do your voice well, but you know.
The Beautifully Animated Speak said, facts. When your body suffers, your mind suffers. When the mind suffers, the body suffers. The circle of suffering. And there was something I learned from a therapist a long time ago. It's like a triangle. Your mental, your emotional, and your physical are all linked. There's a zone of psychology for each one, like cognitive behavioral therapy. I think there's like affective behavioral therapy or something, like affective therapy. And there's something like the behavioral is like how you act, how you behave. There's cognitive, which is through your thoughts. And then there's affective, which is through your feelings. Each one of the 3 influences the other. So if you're like in a funk, your body's going to start to feel depressive. You're going to feel way down, which is going to slow down your thoughts. So there's a train. If you start to have negative thoughts, you might start feeling anxious, or you might start feeling sad because of your thoughts, which is then going to lead into your body feeling lethargic or anxious. And maybe it's going to be jittery, or maybe it's a body. Your body may feel like you may have been on like a shallow breathing. You might have been doing shallow breathing for something and then notice that your mind started to panic or started to race. So your body can also be the leader in the train. So it doesn't matter which one starts. You have to be in control of all 3, because anyone that's in control that's out of whack can distort the other 2 without your knowledge, without your will, without you having made a choice. One will have influenced the other. So I definitely wanted to mention that. And thank you, Dawn Harden. Thank you. I know Dawn came through. Thank you so much. Alonzo Hall came through, man. Thank you all for being in the building. Just wanted to shout y'all out. Dawn, I'm going to make sure I capture that book and check that out. Give me a second. I lost first place in the Taekwondo tournament. I should have got it. I didn't lose to my opponent. I lost to myself. Horrible loss. Worst loss of my life. And that's typically your biggest opponent is yourself. It's the strangest thing. I know that I've learned it even in my own mind. What defeats me is not the thing. It's my feelings about the thing.
You describe it all the time. You describe it all the time. Like you're telling me, Mandrell, it's the discipline. It's the discipline. And that's what it is. You're beating yourself. You know,
before I even start.
And the thing is, it's like people like, you gotta motivate people. I can't motivate somebody to do. I can't want it more than you do.
Right.
So the motivation to get in shape and things like that, it comes from me creating a fun environment for the person. Like if you and I are your accountability partners.
Incentivization.
Right. I can't come call you up and treat you like a drill sergeant. And be like a drill sergeant. Like everyone thinks I'm like that, but it depends on the person. Some people need that. Some people don't. Some people don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, you fat piece of shit. You better do what I say. No, you can't. No, you can't do that. Not everybody's gonna receive the message if you deliver it that way.
That's true. That is true.
You know, most people aren't. So
I do want to get to the video. Everybody, what this is, I do want to let everybody know where we're going to be going a little bit. We're going to be talking about Come On Man. We're going to be talking about the development of manhood, masculinity, and how it's currently framed. So today we're going to start with this video. It's about 11 minutes long, but I've put it on 1.25 speed, a little sped up. But we're going to start about kind of you listen to the conversation. You will probably have had a lot of the thoughts that come out in this video. You'll probably have heard them or had the thoughts listening to these panel conversations a lot of times about the men that you've heard, some of the men you've seen in your life. Listen to it and see if you're hearing the same thoughts echo from a psychological perspective, from an academic perspective, and see if you make the connection between your life, what you've heard in these man conversations, manosphere, red pill. So just catch some of the language, even the attachment to the mother gets brought up. So listen to this for a little bit. After that, me and Mandrell are going to discuss, and I have a few other shorter videos to amplify the message.
A man can't go out the way he came in. A man has got to add up to something. In our previous series on Carl Jung and the man-child, we looked at why the phenomenon of the man-child is so prevalent in our times. We argued that due to the demise of the traditional family and an absence of rites of initiation, many boys lack male role models to show them the way to manhood, and so they are emerging into adulthood stuck in what the authors Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette called boy psychology. In this series, we are going to provide a guide for how to outgrow boy psychology and attain manhood. To do this, we are going to look away from contemporary Western culture, which is overwhelmed by ideas which view masculinity as toxic, and approach the topic of manhood from an anthropological point of view. Drawing from David Gilmour's classic book, Manhood in the Making, we will examine what differing cultures across the world have thought regarding the question, what does it mean to be a man? The purpose of this examination will be to isolate the traits, virtues, and attitudes essential to manhood, thereby creating a map of manhood we can use to outgrow our boy psychology and achieve the benefits which, cross-culturally, are the prerogative of the potent man. In the present crisis of masculinity, we do not need, as some feminists are saying, less masculine power. We need more, but we need more of the mature masculine. We need more man psychology. We need to develop a sense of calmness about masculine power so we don't have to act out dominating, disempowering behavior toward others. To begin, we must differentiate between biological maleness and manhood. Practically all cultures across the world acknowledge that a man is a biological male by virtue of being born with male reproductive organs. Manhood, on the other hand, is not defined by the presence of physical characteristics alone. It must be achieved. The Aboriginal Fox tribe of Iowa call the attainment of manhood the big impossible, which only the masterful few can attain. Unlike biological sex, manhood is not a given but a prize to be won. As the 20th century American author Norman Mailer wrote, "Nobody was born a man. You earned manhood provided you were good enough, bold enough." Or as David Gilmour explains, there is a constantly recurring notion that real manhood is different from anatomical maleness, that it is not a natural condition that comes about spontaneously through biological maturation, but rather is a precarious or artificial state that boys must win against powerful odds. This recurrent notion that manhood is problematic is found among the simplest hunters and fishermen, among peasants and sophisticated urban people. It is found in all continents and environments. To understand why it is almost universally accepted that real men are made, not born, we must investigate what cross-culturally is considered the greatest threat to manhood: psychological regression. In contrast to other animals who emerge into this world with a certain degree of autonomy, the first year of a human's life is spent in a prolonged state of dependence on the mother. Just as a fetus is contained physically in the mother prior to birth, in the first year of life, the infant can be said to be contained psychologically in the mother. From the perspective of the infant, the mother appears symbolically as the Great Mother. She is the child's world and the provider of love, security, warmth, protection, and the all-nourishing breast. After the first year of life, the child enters the stage which Margaret Mailer called separation individuation. The infant's growing awareness of itself as separate from the mother, coupled with an increase in physical mobility, marks the stage at which the child is expected to develop its autonomy and self-identity. While both girls and boys experience the growing pains associated with this stage of development, it is a stage which can prove especially difficult for boys. For while the girl's prior psychological immersion in the mother serves to promote her feminine identity, the boy, to achieve a masculine identity, must rescind his identification with the mother in the feminine world in order to enter the world of men. The special problem the boy faces at this point is in overcoming the previous sense of unity with the mother in order to achieve an independent identity defined by his culture as masculine. The girl does not experience this problem as acutely, according to this theory, because her femininity is reinforced by her original symbiotic unity with her mother, by the identification with her that precedes self-identity and that culminates with her own motherhood. In most societies, the little boy's sense of self as independent must include a sense of self as different from his mother, as separate from her both in ego identity and in social role. Thus, for the boy, the task of separation and individuation carries an added burden and peril. Throughout history, rites of initiation have assisted boys in the process of separation individuation. Through trials and tests overseen by male elders, the boy dies and is reborn a man. Femininity unfolds naturally, whereas masculinity must be achieved. And here is where the male ritual cult steps in. But in the modern West, adequate male role models capable of initiating a boy into manhood are few and far between. Many men are emerging into adulthood without having left the psychological womb of the mother. As a result of not being taught how to embrace struggle, become self-reliant, and engage in the ceaseless enterprise which cross-culturally is expected of the potent man, many men are consumed by lethargy, the desire to evade reality, and escape danger by seeking solace at the mother's side. They are succumbing to what Thomas Gregor in his study of the Mahunaku tribe of Brazil referred to as the desire to take the path back to fusion with the mother and the pleasures of infancy. Or in other words, they are consumed by what Carl Jung called the spirit of regression, who threatens us with bondage to the mother and with dissolution and extinction in the unconscious. In succumbing to the spirit of regression, we adopt lifestyles antithetical to manhood. One such lifestyle which Jung repeatedly warned of is what in mythological terms is referred to as the incestuous marriage to the mother, whereby one remains in the psychological womb of the mother well into old age. If this situation is dramatized, then there appears before you on the psychological stage a man living regressively, seeking his childhood and his mother, fleeing from a cold, cruel world which denies him understanding. Often a mother appears beside him who apparently shows not the slightest concern that her little son should become a man, but who, with tireless and self-immolating effort, neglects nothing that might hinder him from growing up and marrying. You behold the secret conspiracy between mother and son, and how each helps the other to betray life. Others consumed by the spirit of regression may break free from the psychological womb of the mother, only to adopt the lifestyle of Peer Gynt, which the psychologist Rollo May called the myth of males in the 20th century. Peer Gynt is the myth, that is, the life pattern, of a man characterized by two desires. One desires to be admired by women, and the other desires to be taken care of by the same women. The first desire leads to machismo behavior. A braggart, he swaggers and is grandiose. But all of this apparent power is in the service of pleasing the woman, the figurative queen, in order that the second desire be satisfied. These two desires are contradictory. The woman is the one who holds the final judgment and, correspondingly, the power over him. No matter how much he appears to be the swaggering master with his various women, he is in reality a slave serving the queen. His self-esteem and his self-image depend upon her smile, her approval. The spirit of regression can also lead to the adoption of harmful lifestyles not centered around psychological dependence on a woman. As Eric Neumann argues in his book The Fear of the Feminine, World Weariness, Neurotic Sickness, or the placid acceptance of the commonplace in the attempt to avoid struggle, can all signify that the spirit of regression is active in our mind. Regressions of this sort give rise not only to typical anxiety neuroses and phobias, but also, and especially, to addictions and, if the ego is extensively destroyed, to psychoses. To break free from the spirit of regression and move towards manhood, we need to cultivate a heroic attitude. This attitude has been expressed in countless myths, one of the most notable being the dramatic tale of Tannhäuser and Venus. In this myth, the knight Tannhäuser is approached by the beautiful goddess Venus, who asks him to join her on the mountain Venusberg, where she promises his every desire will be satisfied by her and her attendants, the Naiads and Sirens. Tannhäuser accepts her offer and remains in this paradisal feminine world for a year, but soon he grows weary and is overcome by an intense moral conflict. Should he remain on Venusberg where his every wish and desire for pleasure is fulfilled, or should he renounce this passive independent life and once again embrace meaningful struggle in the world? After agonizing deliberation, Tannhäuser decides to leave Venusberg. I must return to the world of men. I stand prepared for battle, even for death and nothingness. Commenting on this myth, David Gilmour writes, "The knight has mastered the most primitive of the demands of the pleasure principle, the temptation to drown in the arms of an omnipotent woman, to withdraw into a puerile cocoon of pleasure and safety." In the next video in this series, we are going to examine in more detail what the heroic attitude entails and how we can cultivate it to escape psychological regression. By exploring how cultures across the world conceive manhood, we will construct a map of heroic manhood we can use in our quest to mature beyond the limiting confines of boys' psychology. As we do, we will also learn why the claim that masculinity is toxic is not only misguided but dangerous. For manhood is not a tool of oppression. It is rather a cultural construct intended to promote the psychological development of boys into men capable of supporting the security and prosperity of a society. When the ideals of manhood are lost or distorted, a society becomes prone to dissolution at the hands of internal and external threats. As the often quoted saying by Michael Hopp puts it, weak men create hard times, or as David Gilmour summarizes, real men are expected to tame nature in order to recreate and bolster the basic kinship units of their society, that is, to reinvent and perpetuate the social order by will, to create something of value from nothing. Manhood is a kind of male procreation. Its heroic quality lies in its self-direction and discipline. Its absolute self-reliance, in a word, its agential autonomy.
All right, man. Appreciate y'all for sitting through that. But when I hear that, I hear a lot of the same conversations that we have around masculinity, whether Black people or not. When we talk about manhood right now between the feminists and the liberal left, when they talk about toxic masculinity and things like that, and people talking about men not developing, men are quitting the workforce right now more than women. A lot of the conversations are tied back into what I always say is psychology. A lot of the conversations I've heard in the manosphere red pill space and the complaints about them especially ties back into a lot of this. I think Mandrell has covered many of these topics over there on Black Men Unfiltered on Unapologetic. One of the things I'll say, like towards the end of the video, he said you have to develop a heroic attitude. And something that stuck out with that Mandrell said, he was on Unapologetic with Shushu, Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern.
Mandrell and Shushu. It's both of us. It's both of us, man. It's my show, actually. She's just my co-host. And she gets all the credit, though. But I like that. I like that she gets the credit, though. I'm glad
Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shushu.
Right, both of us.
He said, you are your own hero, so save yourself. I wrote that quote down because I loved it so much. You are your own hero, so save yourself. And that reminded me of that heroic attitude that he brought up. He said she purtier. He said she purtier. That's where all the eyeballs go. I hear you. But what did you think about some of the stuff in the video? I've got some notes that I'll bring back up, like, some points. But is there anything that stuck out to you? I know there was a lot in there, but I'm gonna bring up point by point in a minute.
Yeah. There's some things that really caught my ear. You know what I'm saying? Like how a kid sees their mother as the divine mother.
Right.
That's
your God thing. For a while. That's your God.
That is for a while. That is your mother is your God until you do like I did and your nuts drop and they don't mix. Well, you know what I'm saying? with a lot of mothers. You know what I'm saying? So and you become masculine and you are going to be you, regardless of what she says. I mean, they have a hard time dealing with that because mothers want their sons, want their children, period, whether it's a son or daughter, to do what they tell them to do. They want you to follow instructions. But when that transition happens, you stop seeing her as a divine mother. It's like, okay, now what? Mm-hmm. That one stuck out to me, the whole concept of the divine mother, because I'm like, he's right. I thought my mama could punch out Wonder Woman. Yeah. Once upon a time, So that one stuck out. A lot of other ones got my made my ears perk up though. I like this one because I made some of these same points myself. You know, about masculinity. You have to. Men are forged. They're not born. No one's born. Yeah, you're not gonna. No one's gonna grow up to be a man. No boy is gonna grow up to be a man. You have to be made into one. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, it's a painful process. Regardless of who you are, it's going to be a painful process. But you learn to embrace it. Like he said in this video, you have to learn to embrace the difficult stuff.
Yeah.
You know, there's a quote in the Army we used to say, embrace the suck.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Embrace the suck. Yeah, that's the Army term, you know. And you be out there, man, and they flew us down to Florida in the Everglades for some jungle training.
Mm-hmm.
Because we was in the swamp, so like this ain't the jungle. This is a freaking swamp. Okay, there's a difference. Embrace the suck. I'm like, oh, we're in this water and it's this high. There's snakes, there's water moccasins swimming around, and everything. You know what I'm saying? And like it's a snake. It's in the water. What are you gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So I mean, if you have a phobia of snakes, or if you're afraid of water. That's one way how you get over it, though. I mean, it does, things like that do teach you, and you learn by doing it. You're like, oh man, this sucks, but the more you do a thing, the more comfortable you get with it.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying. And so that's
where resilience comes from,
right? Because it sucks, it hurts. Keep doing it. Keep doing it.
Doesn't kill you.
It doesn't. Does it kill you? No, you're alive. Yeah, you're all right. Keep going.
Yep.
I don't want to do this anymore. You quitting? We'll see when they say that. That's when everybody perk up. No, Sergeant, not quitting, because nobody wants to be the quitter, you know. But I'll tell you that I think that's why I said once upon a time I said, and I still believe this to today. I think everyone, especially males, should do at least 2 years in the military service, mandatory, because it does teach you that. You know what I'm saying? It does give you that feeling of accomplishment. So a lot of people who are out here, who the greater society would classify as losers, and I'm doing the air quotes because I don't actually think anyone's a loser unless you make bad decisions. You know it's a bad decision,
and you're still doing it. But it also has to be a consistent thing. You know what I mean? If you consistently know that these are bad decisions that you make them anyway. I'm like, okay, dude, you're not trying. You're not trying. I mean, but it takes a lot for me to honestly believe that someone's a loser. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people will say, no, Mandrell, you're lying. That's not a lie. That's actually true. That's how I actually feel about people. If you want to know the truth, I do give people a lot of grace. It just depends on the conversation, because truth and purpose nexus, I guess is what he's called himself these days. He and I've had a lot of conversations, right? And some of our conversations, he and I have vehemently disagreed. Yeah,
like to the end, like I don't agree with that. I don't agree with what you say either, Mandrell. But here's what we say. Okay, cool. Our conversations, no matter how much he and I disagreed, at the end of it, we're like, oh, okay, then cool. We've never called each other names, never screamed and yelled at each other. That's masculinity. That's maturation.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Those are two alpha males in a conversation where they flat out disagree. Nobody wants to choke each other, though. You know what I'm saying? But you got other people, man, with it that make you want to come through. Make you want to come through the screen, man. But, you got some people out there you're like, give it up, Chuck. Your facts are wrong. No. All right, man. Cool.
I know one of the reasons I wanted to do this, and I'm going to check back in with the chat, was I've noticed that the push of masculinity as being toxic, not the blanket statement like masculinity is toxic, but even the verbiage toxic masculinity has come to be misunderstood.
It is, because they don't know what masculinity is.
Right, that's one problem. And I've people that do not have, because they like the video talked about it, and we talk about it all the time. Any black community conversation starts with fathers not being in the home. So if fathers are not in the home and uncles and grandparents, if there are men missing from the home, what were the people who are left talking about masculinity haven't had healthy models of it.
Right.
So any masculinity you do see is probably going to seem problematic to you. If you're chaotic and somebody tries to bring structure, it's going to be rejected.
Or if you have a regimen and you're used to doing things a certain way, and that masculinity comes into the picture, a lot of women who've been single for a long time it's a challenge for them to adjust to that. They find it challenging to adjust to that. And they're good women, like really top shelf good women. It's a challenge for them because they're used to relying on themselves so much. They're used to other people. They're very much so used to other people relying on them. Now you have someone in your life who doesn't need you for the same things that everyone else needs you for. He's just there to help take some of that stuff off your back and give you new assignments. But will you sit back? Will you step back? Are you willing to step back and allow him to give you these assignments, ladies? That's how you cooperate with him.
My bad, responding to a text real quick.
No problem.
I did want to say, though, another thing. I did a video reaction one time. There was this young lady, and she was going on a date with a guy. And he told her, because she said she was going to be somewhere at a certain time. And she showed up like 45 minutes late. And he's like, you're late. And she's like, you're not my daddy. And I'm like, but that's actual respect. He's asking and holding you to account to respect his time because you decided to show up late. But it was seen to her as disrespect. So even something as simple as correcting somebody on behavior is obviously anybody would say with disrespect. Anybody that made you wait 45 minutes, you would say is disrespectful. But when people are starting to
with no calls and no texts or nothing like that, no communication, you just late like that, 45 minutes.
When people set up boundaries, for people that are habitual line steppers that are always chronically crossing people's boundaries, when you put up boundaries, it makes them feel disrespected. I've noticed that people who have tried to control issues, they do not like when you try to say no. It becomes a problem. So that's something we have to learn to not confuse. They'll make us seem like we're the bad guy for being able to say no or put up in a boundary and not allowing people into your space or your time or your money. So be careful, because what they take, that term they use, gaslighting, people will try to make it your problem that you're putting up a boundary as opposed to their problem for wanting to insert themselves, impose themselves onto your time or your money or your energy. Real quick, lack of communication tends to lead to a lack of understanding. Absolutely. That literally happened to my brother recently. He refused the second day because it's disrespectful. It's disrespecting people's time. And if you call people on it now, if you call people on anything that they're doing, they're wrong. That's actually wrong. There's a poor behavior. It's bad manners, or it's disrespectful. They don't like it. So those are like red flags that we have to watch out for. But I thought that was interesting, like masculinity being toxic. I've seen a lot of people talk about masculinity as toxic or narcissism. What they're talking about are traits that might just be inherently male. Like a lot of men are more energetic when they do things. And that's seen as, oh, you're being told, oh, you're like, no, it's not. We're not being aggressive. Sometimes we're just energetic. It may come across as aggressive because you're not used to seeing it. You're not familiar with it. Boys are always said to be rambunctious. That rambunctious nature doesn't just disappear. You still want to be a little extra as a guy. I don't even know why. I just want to do extra stuff sometimes. But it can't be always labeled as aggressive and violent if we're not threatening anybody. So, I mean, there are different aspects of masculinity that get seen through a negative lens because people are not used to seeing masculinity routinely. So there's something we have to deal with that.
You and I have been on platforms together where people weren't used to seeing masculinity, and when masculinity shows up, who do you think you are? When masculinity shows up, who do you think you are? See, no, you're wrong. Yeah. See, blah 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 blah, and then and that's the problem right now. See, and And then what masculinity does is like, okay, cool. I'll see y'all later. Either that or we just get quiet. There's no point because people like that, I recognize there's no point in carrying on the conversation because this isn't going to be one. It's just not. This person doesn't want to have a conversation, or they're unqualified to have the conversation on that specific topic.
I definitely agree with you. I wanted to bring up another point from the video. They talked about life because men, and I've said this. I say this. A lot of men need external motivation. And we lean on the external motivation to be women. It's somehow women focused. I need to improve myself so that I can get women. The winning approval of your mother. There's always typically I need to get money so I have greater access to women. And then I'm the one that can, I have my pick of women. There are a lot of our motivators are women based, and the video touched on that. But a life centered around women that gives women the godhood, it gives them ultimate power. Men, in my opinion, have to stop letting the governance of women rule their life, because you can't give over your autonomy to an external party. Like that's just something we can't do. That's my opinion. That's how I feel about it. I believe the pursuit of, I would even say like I know Bree calls it the puss. The pursuit of the puss has been the downfall of a great many men. Yeah, man, it's terrible. But we're not taking our power within ourselves to control and govern our lives. If everything we're doing is in service to getting or pleasing a woman, then our motivation is off. Even if the outcome is good, maybe I get a house because I want to please a woman. It's good that I'm a homeowner, but it's problematic that my motivation was somebody else. If they're not pleased with it, then I'm hurt and I'm damaged because it didn't please them the way I thought it would. So there's a problem with that external motivation.
Well, I gotcha, but what do you do in the case of marriage? Because when it comes to marriage, I wholeheartedly believe that marriage for the husband is 100% a servant's role. You are in service to your wife. You're in service to your children. You are in service to that family. And oftentimes your extended family, your in-laws. Being a husband, in my opinion, from my perspective, is 100% a servant's role. And I think a lot of people would do well to take that same approach, because somehow the servitude part of being a husband has been lost. You don't hear guys talking about it. A man is supposed to provide and protect. Really? Okay. Unless you're a millionaire, and again, there's only 10% of them. That's just the guys. We're not taking out. Now you take out the LGBTQ community. You take out the married guys. You take out the guys who are not looking for marriage. What you got left? Oh, you know what I'm saying? So, like I said, they forget the servitude part.
I agree.
No one talks about it. No one does. And I think it's a symbiotic relationship when you're in service to your wife and she's in service to you. You know what I'm saying? I think it works best that way. And that can manifest in a whole lot of different ways. It depends on what the two people in that marriage negotiate. Okay, I'll take care of this part. You take care of that part. Okay, any issues, come see me. Talk to me. You want to make some big moves, run that by me. I'll run it by you too. It just depends on how they want their marriage to run, right? You don't even see that. No, the man's supposed to be the provider and protector. And do you even know how to protect? And what are you providing? Very few people make enough money to provide for a whole family by themselves. And if you're that kind of guy who can provide for a whole family by themselves, you got a completely different mindset. You don't have a traditional marriage. So what do you think?
I actually think you're right. But here's what I'm going to say. Modern society has messed it up, because service is indeed required for any level of relationship. There is some level of service and performance that's required. Even this required me to communicate with you to this is the time we're doing it. Stuff had to be put in order. Stuff had to be compiled. You have to show up. There's levels of service that we provide in any level of relationship. The issue is right now, today, I believe that consumerism has tweaked it so that service now means I'm serving my wants as opposed to my needs. So you have to provide a life of luxury or things that are pleasing. We've leaned into like hedonism. Everything is a sensory experience. I know Brother He Says talked about it. Me and Bree talk about it. So now the service that people are asking for are things that please the flesh as opposed to actually serve a productive life. So like you hear, I listened to a woman just today and she was talking about you only need 3 things in a relationship: communication, finances, and sex. And I was like, wait a minute. My communication could be vulgar and it could be violent and it could be manipulative. And my money could be used to dominate and control and manipulate. And the sex could be used to mask deficiencies in the relationship. So all of those 3 things that you said are necessary could be used in a negative light. Where is character? Why is nobody asking for character? So people are asking for what they want to please themselves and not what they need to progress themselves. So I think you're right that service is necessary, but people have mistaken service for like self-fulfillment, like gratification. I think that's the mistake we're making.
Well, yeah, it's such the other way around. They mistake self-fulfillment for service. They think one is the other, and it's not. It's not the same thing. It is not.
And real quick, let me shout out Mr. He Said. Mr. He Says in the building. Red Lipstick Vibes in the building. Thank you so much for being
What
here.
is she doing here? See, Red Lipstick Vibes. I got a bone to pick with that one. That one treated me like dirt the last time I was on her platform.
What? I don't.
Yeah, she was mean to me, man. She's mean.
Not Miss Ty. You ain't gonna get me to believe that.
Yes, Miss Ty was mean to me on her platform, man. I was like, wow, why am I being treated like this? What'd I do?
What she do? Hold you accountable?
No, she did not hold me accountable. She was just mean.
Set up boundaries? Nah, I don't believe it.
She took action with it before she set the boundaries, and that's a foul. You can't take action without telling me what the boundaries are first. I don't know the rules. I watch her platform, I watch her stuff, and she don't even know I'm watching because I don't even leave stuff in the comments. I ghost watch because I like her content. I do.
Yeah.
Call it what you want, but I like Realist Advisor. I like her content. Mr. He Says, I like his content too. He's dope.
Dope guy.
Yeah, he's dope. Yeah, his lady is too, man. That's as a couple. That's what we need to be watching right now. People need to be listening to them.
I say that all the time.
Yeah, people need to be listening to them.
Yeah.
I watch them sit there and spit facts all night long.
Hey, let me catch up on these chats real quick, man, because we got some good ones. Yes, the husband and the father are service, but the self still should hold autonomy and virtues. Absolutely. Without that, you become a service model robot, man. Absolutely. That's a problem too. You have to have a will within yourself for your own outcomes that you desire. But you do serve the needs and purposes of the family and the different relationship dynamics. You serve as the father to one child, you serve as a different version of the father to the other child because they have different needs. So the service is independent based on that individual relationship. I think we have a misunderstanding though. A lot of times we try to give the same service to everybody, like one size fits all service.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work, bro.
That's a lot of that happens. Even in marriage, the both parties supposed to have the ideas drawn out before they get conversations to outlines, expectations, boundaries, timelines, all kinds of things you need to talk about, standards before you get into marriage. Because it tends to be based on love or kids. It goes haywire when things get thick.
I have a question for you, and people in the chat, the audience, you can answer this as well. So when it comes to you, what they call vetting for marriage, how many conversations do you think you should have about things like that? And how many conversations is too many?
Too many? That's like saying you over-prepared. I don't know. I don't believe in over-prepare. Like, I don't believe that's a thing. Like, I think you need to have things lined up. Like, you know what I'm saying? As much as you can button up. Now, there's also the second piece. The second piece of that people forget. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Like, I mean, until life actually hits you, you don't know how well your plan's going to withstand life. I mean, that's fair. You know, we thought we were going to have 2 kids, but the first one almost killed me. I may not want to have a second kid. Like my plan was. So I get it, but that's where we need to be adaptable and flexible of mind to not be set on the idea we set ahead of time. Like my plan was this, I've got to make this happen no matter what at any cost. We have to let that go and be able to pivot. I mean, I think that's important. But as far as the preparation, I think those conversations should be had from the beginning, because a lot of people get into long-term relationships and realize the other person doesn't even want kids, but I do. Or they want kids and I know I can't or I won't. So we need to have all of those prep conversations immediately. Wives in service to their husband. It goes both ways. We have to be in service to each other. Yep.
Yeah.
Forget the goals. Keep the relationship going. Yes. Good sex can put a blindfold on a bad or toxic situation often. She told him to focus probably. Y'all wrong.
No, I think I asked that question because, like I'm with someone now, and we talk about stuff like this quite often. You know what I'm saying? Like like quite often. And I'm just like, and it's not like every day, not even every week, not even every 2 weeks or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? But like we had several conversations like this, and they're very productive conversations. You know what I'm saying? Very productive. I get a lot out of them. So does she. And I enjoy having them personally. But I'm like, okay, I just thought about it because a lot of people don't even have these conversations. You know what I'm saying? At all. And wonder why things don't work. And a lot of people, like I've been in a relationship where this person told me, no, nothing's wrong. You sure? Yeah. You're acting different. No, nothing wrong. We're cool. Everything's good. One day, ghost. That's into the ether. You know what I mean? I just, all right, whatever. I mean, you said nothing wrong. You lied. Cool. I don't want to lie. I don't want to be able to lie anyway. Thanks for the favor.
I want to catch up on some more chat, but I do got to let y'all know, for whatever reason, StreamYard has quit putting the messages in there. So thankfully I had YouTube up separately. But yeah, Res Lipstick Vibe said, yes, bro and sis are dope. Yeah, the he said, she said clan, I love them to death, to life. In fact, they're a power couple in divine order. That's truth. People don't even understand what marriage actually is. That's truth. Candace said as many, Samson and Candace said as many as possible. Never too many of those conversations. It's not a man-made construct. It's divine covenant. Okay. Bree said as many as y'all need and as possible. Never too many from Red Lipstick Vibes, but also understand it's an ideal. Yeah, life is dynamic, so you need to also know how they handle stress and changes. Are they adaptable? Yeah, it's super important. True says facts. You just need to be a husband and father, wife and mother before marriage. Okay.
I agree with that. I say that all the time. You should, by all rights, be already married before you get married. You should be a husband and wife by all rights and purposes before the marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I know, like even me, I'm moving things in steps in the relationship I'm in now, right? Like after February, I'm going to kick it up a notch. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Something I don't have to do. And she's probably saying, no, don't do that. But no, listen, you got to let me be a man. You got to let me, that's what I'm going to be. And you have to let me do my job. If I get pushed up.
Kendra Dan says, well, Red Lipstick, even after marriage, continue convo because life changes. Check-ins, y'all, check-ins. If you're in a relationship, the conversation should not stop. Y'all need check-ins. Y'all need to know where each other are mentally, emotionally, where life, because people forget that we need to stay connected. It can't all be physical. There has to be conversation continually to know where people are because things do shift inside of people. Our feelings about certain things do change. Kansas says, if someone makes you feel uncomfortable about those type of conversations, that's a red flag. Sim says, but we also have to understand most people talks don't add up to their actions. Consistency. Gotta check for congruency and consistency. Absolutely. Intellectual soapbox, man. Appreciate you, my guy. For some reason, StreamYard is not pulling my comments through. Wireless woman, hey yo. Thanks for coming through. Good to see you. Probably says stress test. Let me see. Sim. That's when we tend to ask ourselves, should we even ask the Q or wait until it pops up? But talking does set up. I believe talking is important because it lets you know where the person's thought process is. Then you'll have a baseline to when their actions manifest. Did it line up with what they said? Was it different? And then you can have a follow-up conversation. Why did A not match B? So I think that stuff's important. Stay connected. Let me keep my gun home so I do like shoot. What I miss? He's talking about shooting. How you want your marriage is how you should be in your relationship prior. The ring and paper doesn't change the relationship. It only locks you in. Right. Okay. I like y'all rocking it out in the chat. I'm sorry that I can't bring them up. I'm not sure. Mandrell, go ahead and talk real quick. I'm gonna pop out and pop back in, see if that refreshes the chat.
You want me to host before you going?
Just start talking about something for like 30 seconds.
Okay, cool.
You got it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Well, check it out. My idea of marriage, I agree with Truth. You should be married before you get married in the relationship. If you're not, what are you doing? What are you waiting on? Like even me, like, and this is a chick. Like I don't think she like the relationship. I mean, I don't think she understands just how far my loyalty and my trust goes. Like the stuff I talk about, the way I really am, it sounds like something out of a comic book, but I really am like that. You know what I'm saying? If I'm committed, I'm committed. That's it. That's the square I'm standing on. This is the chick I'm riding with, and you can't tell me shit else. The only one who can fuck this up is her. Because I'm going to do everything I can to make her happy. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I'm not going to simp, but it's my woman. You know what I'm saying? All this crazy talk about simps and stuff. I like taking care of my woman.
Nothing wrong with that.
I like being a gentleman. And then
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, and I understand, even though I don't like it when everything doesn't work according to plan. I gotta understand that's just life. Some stuff, you know, you can try, but some stuff just ain't gonna happen the way it should. You know what I'm saying? Or the way you want. So you have to eat the L. You know what I'm saying?
Man, take that L.
Got to take that L, man.
Shout out to JP in the chat. Again, when I came back in, all the newer chats had loaded, but now they've stopped again. So I'm not sure StreamYard is having an issue.
Yeah.
But again, I do have YouTube up. I do see your comments, but I won't be able to pull them up on screen. You can't be married before you're married. That's impossible, said the Intellectual Soapbox.
You can't be married before you're married. That's impossible. Okay.
I do want to play this next video because this is where we need to go as men. Jason,
also,
I think a lot of people.
Too,
go ahead.
You send me the first video you sent. Send me that.
That first one, it's in the anybody that saw that first video, that and the one that goes along with it that preceded it that the guy mentioned are both in the link in the description. But I will send those to you.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Let me see.
Because I'm gonna do a show on morality too, and I think I'm gonna twist some people's heads up with this one.
Oh,
I mean, I might do that show by myself because I'm gonna do I'm gonna do a monologue.
Okay, that's what he said. It's gonna be about what again?
Morality.
Whoo, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Because what's moral to you might not be moral to me. What's moral to me might not be moral to you.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, it's important.
That's important. Morals and ethics are a part of a person's character. We need to have those things established because I have, like I say, I'm morally ambiguous. There's a lot of things that I just don't see as wrong because who do they hurt? I'm not somebody that governs my morality and ethics based on laws because laws are made by people and those people have incentives that may not match mine. So I don't think something's necessarily wrong. You know, like somebody like the stealing a loaf of bread thing. I'm like, well, if that's the only way he had to eat, you know, the soup kitchens were closed and they still. I'm not tripping over somebody stole food to actually feed their kid. I'm not tripping over that.
Same here, because I've actually been in that situation.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Where, you know, what are you gonna do? The guy's just trying to eat. You know, or there's another guy he's just trying to feed his family. You want me to stop him?
Truth wants to know when you're doing it. Let me see. Sim said, but Mandrell, be careful because if she mentally can't keep up with your skill set, things might feel off. Can't go on level 10 when a person can only get back level 5 skills in return, which is absolutely true. Kawhi Bree said, let's go monologue. Moral ambiguity. JP and I'll be trying to chill. I chose my husband for his morality, not based on religion. That's right, Camden. I like that. So definitely appreciate the feedback. But let me pop this video in. It's about 4 minutes, but I really like this guy's talking points, man. Y'all might know this man, Jason Wilson, I believe it is.
It has been said that no
About
matter
4
where
minutes.
you
4 minutes.
go, there you will be. In other words, we cannot escape ourselves. Therefore, men, it's imperative that we learn how to wage and win the war within, the mental and emotional battle inside all of us, the one that we fear the most, and looks like this: unresolved anger, self-pity, suicidal thoughts, trauma, resentment, and depression. So, what is the war within? It's an introspective or inner battle between the right you know you should do and the wrong that desires to rule you. When I first posted the title of my new book, Battle Cry: Waging and Winning the War Within, someone assumed I was referring to crying. Although my previous book, Cry Like a Man, was about how releasing trauma can help you attain mental and emotional freedom, in Battle Cry, I'm teaching you how to fight to keep it. So, for clarity, a battle cry is a shout by soldiers going into battle to express unity and intimidate the enemy. But sadly, many men today are so discontented with life that they no longer have the will to shout a battle cry and fight for what they desire and deserve. Their swords are sheathed and they suppress what makes them depressed. Warrior, if you are one of these men who are hurting and hiding, tired of not being able to say you're tired, weak without the confidence to be strong, strong with nowhere to go when you're weak, I want you to know that there is a life to live beyond the limitations of what you've been deceived to believe, or should I say programmed to believe it means to be a man. For decades, I was losing the war within myself. I couldn't calmly articulate my feelings regarding an offense, and like many of you, I would yell or even fight in order to hide that I had been hurt. Instead of swatting away the mosquito, I would wait for it to land on a glass table, then kill it with a sledgehammer. Think about that. I was willing to risk it all to be heard and to be right. My toxic thoughts turned into destructive actions that, brothers, I regret even to this day. I almost lost my marriage, my family, and my mind. So, my brothers, when we cannot introspectively confront our negative thoughts and emotions, we will always be conquered by them. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I am a living testimony that you can win this battle. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to share with you training excerpts from each chapter of my book, Battle Cry, in order to give you an overview.
He's selling. He said what I needed him to say. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Appreciate that. I really do appreciate you, my guy. I know Mr. Best, Intellectual Soapbox said he's boring, but hey, I like my guy there. He's speaking slowly and methodically. But Ken Dan said, I understand this is focused on men, but every point is also valuable for women. It presents differently, but the core is still the same. And that's something I've also been saying for quite some time, Ken Dan. You're absolutely right, because the issues that we're having are human issues, human nature problems, which is why I bring up psychology. The issue is that the conditioning of men and women, and I guess the physiology of men and women, has us take the same inputs and direct them out differently. So the behaviors that we display, starting from the same place, it might be hurt, it might be fear, it might be desire. That same input is going to be shown and demonstrated through our behaviors differently, because we're men and because we're women. We're different. Same thing is like a cultural inputs. The same input culturally, you might get a totally different output because the person is tuned different, they're wired different, they're trained different. You give me and Mandrell the exact same thing. We're different people because his militaristic mindset, he has a culture based on discipline and regimentation. You give him the same input, you're going to get a different output than you're going to get from me. That's just the way it is. So we need to understand that our human nature is the baseline, but the way it manifests in each of us is going to be slightly different. And men and women, we have to start understanding that, because a lot of times we're expecting the other person to show up the way we are. And that's a little difficult. Let me see.
Yeah, I've had an issue with that before.
This world having a human experience. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. The spirit. You're a spirit person having a human experience. I'm with you. Truth. But I wanted to bring that video to bear because I think that's what a lot of guys have to tap into. Being a more comprehensive version of masculinity, we do have to broaden our skill set based more on internal values, like Mandrell was just talking about, values, morality, ethics. We need to be people of character so that I think a lot of people can stop portraying characters. We can stop trying to get our cues from social media and television if we had some more internally based value sets that governed our life, as opposed to chasing and pursuing things that are temporary. I think we need to have something more permanent. I know for somebody like Truth, that's the spirit of God. For me, it's just like a value set that keeps me grounded and centered so that even if things aren't going my way, I can still fall back on a certain place of steadiness. And I think we need a lot of that because I think a lot of the manhood that's been more boastful or fragile and that gives a lot of backlash to women, a lot of that comes from not being rooted in anything stable. Like Mandrell talked about earlier, when people get challenged, well, you know what, I see there's no point to going in on this. I'll just leave it alone. I think sometimes there needs to be more of that in masculinity, as opposed to thinking that every small thing is a battle that needs to be waged. You talk about the sledgehammer on the fly on the table. Everything is not a fight. But if you haven't been trained to fight, that may be all you see. Because you're just looking to prove yourself, which goes back to that first video, rites of passage. A lot of us did not have rites of passage. So because we didn't have those, we're looking to prove ourselves against the world in places where it's not necessary. So I really like Jason Wilson. Yes, Rashawn, that's because we walking around treating people like we want to be treated. Yeah, find out how they want to be treated and do that. Selfish humans. Absolutely, Mr. He said. Appreciate you. Marcus in the building. And again, I apologize, y'all cannot bring up the chats. I got to go out and come back in and they refresh, but then they don't come back up. Nope. Leave women out of this. We're just here so we don't get fined. That's what's up, which was also the name of the last live. Appreciate you, Wireless Woman, for tapping in. Love it. Staying connected. All right, Mandrell had to take a phone call. Now, I've been part of a couple conversations because we're going to shift this a little bit, but it's still about the same stuff. I've been a part of 2 conversations recently when I wrote this in my notes with women, and they were talking about men's heights, Mandrell. Talking about men's heights. It almost feels hardwired that the shorter a woman is, the taller they desire their man is. It like if they're 5 foot, they almost want like a 7 foot guy almost every single time. They always say it makes them feel safe. That's the word. And feeling safe and being safe are quite different. So while women may erroneously focus on the physical domain, we talked about those 7 domains. You and I are going to focus again on the social domain. I believe men have to wake up. We have to wake up, Mandrell, and we have to wake up and feel dangerous.
When I woke up this morning, I was feeling pretty dangerous. Woke up feeling dangerous. Woke up feeling dangerous. Okay. Woke up feeling dangerous. Woke up feeling dangerous.
The Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield. You were compelled to watch.
But now that dude, when he said that, he woke up feeling dangerous. I just think, Mandrell, that guys right now, we have to wake up and we need to feel dangerous. I think that's our baseline. I think that has to be something that we quit allowing society to take out of us. And I know Quiet Reese says support the menses. I'm already offended. Yeah, they literally want the illusion. But the reason I say that is because the feeling of safety is not enough. You have to actually be safe. And the way to actually be safe is to be as strong as your biggest threat.
Or stronger.
Stronger is more optimal. But you have to be able to compete with that biggest threat. Because if you're nowhere near in the realm of that biggest threat, well, you're at a deficiency. You're at a disadvantage. And you're never going to actually be safe. It's just feeling safe. And at that point, that's symbolism. And we have way too much symbolism that we're leaning on in relationships. And I wish I could bring up these comments. Hello, Ine. Thank you, thank you. Sim said against who or what? What do you mean? Which was the part of that? Oh yes, you have to actually be safe. What's up, Bolo TV? Appreciate you in the building. Let me see. Boom. Give me a second. I'm doing some stuff on the intellectual said soapbox. Dangerous about what? I'm saying you need to be dangerous.
Or the thing is, danger is it's not binary. It's not finite. There are many different ways to be dangerous as well. And the thing is, like we've been on doing this live, and we just now got to the part about being dangerous, after all this time. But it's been a very good conversation so far. So anyone who's just getting in, like Bolo, you just got in. Hey, rewind this sucker, man, and watch from the beginning. This has been a very good conversation. Being dangerous comes in many different forms. It doesn't just mean violence. When it comes to the violent part, ladies, like I have the muscles and I have the martial arts. Yeah, in case one day I may need it, because if that time comes, I may have to fight for my life. I don't know. A street fight is the last thing I'm getting into. You can call me whatever you want to call me. You can call me weak. Oh, I thought you was a big, bad, tough guy. No. I understand what's going on here. I understand violence. And a dangerous man, will use violence as his absolute last resort. But a dangerous man also understands that person may not let you walk away. They may not let you. You can walk. You can tell. No, I'll tell my son to walk away. I've had so many conversations with women about this. I'll just tell him to walk away. What if that person doesn't let him walk away? No, I'll tell him to walk away, ma'am. What if the assailant doesn't allow your son to walk away? What do you mean? Like it does, and this is not just one woman. This is a lot of women that I've had this conversation with. A lot of them are, Sean, and it's like they don't understand. They don't understand past the walking away part. I'm like, no, there are people out there, some bullies, or people who are desperate, who are trying to rob you. Like someone assaults you and then puts a gun in your face and says, hey, give us the money. Give us the money. And so, you give them the money, but then they want something else. What are you going to do next? He's got a gun and he's not letting you get away. What do you do now? What if you scream, but there's no one there to hear you? It's just you and this person. Now, what? And so I say this because I've had this conversation with women. Get your son into martial arts. You know what I'm saying? Get him into a boxing club, a fighting club. He's going to cry in the beginning. He's not going to want to go back. You have to ignore that. You have to make him stay there and go every single day, even if he hates it. Because that is something he needs to have. This is if you're starting the kid off like way early. Because the fight club I'm in, they take kids at 5 years old for MMA. Now, imagine the monsters they're going to be in 15 years when they hit 20. You start at 5, you keep this up until you're 20 years old. Imagine the monsters are going to walk into that octagon, walk in the street. And people like, I don't want to teach them to be violent. That's the person who doesn't understand violence. A dangerous man, dangerous men are some of the most respectful and peaceful people walking the planet because dangerous men understand violence. A street fight can go anywhere. Someone can pick up a glass bottle, catch you in the jugular. You're done. It is impossible to stitch the jugular. You can't stitch that up. Well, you can apply pressure. No. That's the carotid artery. You're not stitching that up. No amount of pressure is going to stop that blood from pumping out of your body. You are dead, gone. So what you want to do is give yourself the best chance to get out of the situation. That's the violence part. If you're a dangerous man, you walk away from street fights. Getting into a street fight is stupid. Anything can happen. I can't count on Arshawn to come and fight me fairly. We haven't agreed on that. A sanctioned fight in the octagon or the ring, we agreed on the rules, right? So I'm trusting you not to hit me below the belt, and you're trusting me the same. It don't work like that in the street. Also, dangerous men that are nonviolent. A nonviolent way to be dangerous is to be competent. It's to be focused. and really good at what you're doing, no matter what that is. That means if you're dangerous, you can come into a job and take somebody else's job. Dangerous men are men who come into a position, and in 6 months, they skipped over 5 people who were next in line for a job. Those are dangerous men. They're layers of focus. They're driven. They're confident, and they're determined. They want what they want. They're going to do whatever it takes to get that. That's a dangerous man. Dangerous men are also humble. Very humble. See, that's the thing with society. I think society doesn't know a real dangerous man. They just see jerk-offs who walk around loud, and, and show off. And those men aren't dangerous. Those are suckers. Oftentimes, the weakest person in the room is the loudest one. And so dangerous men don't even talk to them. We ignore that guy. We just like, oh yeah, he's just holding himself. What do you think?
No, I agree with you, and I wanted to reframe that intentionally because of that. The word danger is automatically assumed that it was unsafe for society, but a lot of the men who are the most dangerous are the ones that keep society safe. And that's what's been lost in the whole trying to make men a different version of masculinity. That's what's been lost. So, like the same way they say about gun ownership. Well, like we need to curtail gun ownership. But you're never going to stop the criminals from having guns. They're never going to stop. So if you take the arms away from everybody else, and the people who are just predatory are never going to give up their guns, well, you create an imbalance, a safety imbalance. So you have to have somebody who's on the good end of things that's as equal of a response as the greatest threat. So I think the same thing is true, not about guns, but in life, period. If people that are making things unsafe, we talk about the violence in our communities all the time. Well, we don't have enough men who are willing to risk their lives to protect, as we have the men are willing to risk their lives that are willing to destroy. So we've created an imbalance because so many men, what is that word that Bree uses? Denatured. Men are being denatured because we're deemed unsafe. Being aggressive is seen as unsafe. But if there were men available that could train, and like you talked about those people in MMA at 5, where that guidance is steady and that leadership is steady and everything, all that force is discipline, so it becomes power, well, then manhood looks different. Manhood isn't something that makes everybody afraid. Manhood stands on the corner and makes sure the streets are protected. Manhood would protect their neighborhoods. Manhood would protect their women and children. Manhood would stay in the homes. If you were as dangerous as the greatest threat, if the man can't even stand up to the woman in the home and he leaves because he can't even handle her mouth, well, what does that mean he's going to do in the streets when you're running up against dangers in the street? They're not going to tackle that on. They're not going to take that on. And the kids are going to run wild, which is where we are. So now the men are less threatening than the children in the communities. And I'm not pointing my finger. I don't want to mess with these young. I don't want to mess with them. I'll become one of these people. I don't want to go out here messing with these people. I don't want to mess with these kids. I saw them laughing at the cops when the cop was jerking them out of a car that they had stolen. The kids are crazy. And it's because we failed them. It's because we failed them. We're not there. The men are not there. We're not training them. And we're not taking those traits that may be inherent in them, and we're not grooming and cultivating something positive out of it, something that benefits society. So that's where I think we failed as men. We've stepped out of our role for whatever reason. I'm not looking to blame anybody for where men have fallen. I just know that we've fallen. I know that we're not taking on the roles that we should. A lot of that, I believe, is running from, like that first video, running from the struggle, running from the burdens of life, leaning into pleasure. A lot of that is that man-child that first video talked about. I want to catch up on a few chats. Wireless Woman said, I had a short husband. I gave it a try. Short men are the Chihuahua men, too aggressive and hyperactive. That's messed up. Let me see. Honestly, safety is an illusion most of the time. And I'm sorry, I'm way behind because StreamYard has quit putting my chats up. It's not just his ability to physically defend. Absolutely. Dangerous means boundaries, aggression, passion, a willingness to win at any cost. Okay, so I get it. Stay dangerous as in be prepared for whatever can be thrown at you. Absolutely, absolutely. Hardly anyone is getting into street fights anymore. It's all about cowards with guns. Yep. Beautifully Animated Speak says, I used to want a 6-foot guy when I was in high school until I was around a 6-foot guy. You damn near break your neck trying to interact with them. Height hasn't been an image of safety for me, just attraction. Thank you for that. All right, intellectual soapbox is out. All right, my guy. Let me see. I think the complexity and ability to change the room, de-escalate, or even agree to disagree. Not saying that does that every time, but his ability to read and change the situation is the safe place. Mr. He said, thank you so much for that. Sorry, I know I'm so far behind. Just going to skip ahead. Again, thank you, Bolo TV, for being in the building. Bravado is dangerous for the man that has the most. Yeah, you can't be too much. Can't be doing too much. The suckers you just demonstrated, Mandrell, are who I label as toxic masculinity. Exactly. Criminals do not care about your gun laws. Okay, so I'm almost caught up. Let me see. That's what I tell people. It's not enough dudes out here to men their hands are soft. Yeah, they built different. Quiet Bree. I feel that way about masculine men. They're the most respectful and decisive men on the planet. Don't need to argue for hours. I'm trying to compute the full scope of the word dangerous. Interesting, Don Harden. All right, thank you. Seen a group of 10-year-olds bust a dude in the dome for trying to break up their fight. Simma. Jeez. Lord. All right. Cool. Man. Woo, I wish StreamYard was not tripping right now because, man, the chat is going off and I love it. Now, women have said that they want dangerous men. They're dominant is typically the word they say. Dominant. I've heard dominant so many times. Dominant. And maybe that's the preferred language. Dominant. I've chosen to use dangerous for the sake of this conversation because what we're talking about is a man that is in control of himself. Unfortunately, Quiet Breathe, there's a lot of it. I had an entire playlist of about 50 videos where women were talking about wanting a dominant man. Dominant. That was the word over and over. I'm like, that's interesting because I want to separate. There are quite possibly, more than two, but there are at least two types. People who want and say they want a dominant man, but there are also people who seemingly want to be dominant themselves. So I understand that women are not a monolith. I want to couch that right there. Oh, dangerous too, Brie. Yes, I'm sticking with dangerous because to me, they are synonymous. You can't be dominant without being dangerous. You cannot be non-threatening and be dominant. It's not possible. Like even what Mandrell said in business, you cannot dominate an industry and not be a danger to the other competition in that industry. If you're not a threat to them financially, if you're not taking business, if you're not taking market share, if you're not putting any threat or pressure on them, if you're not on their SWOT analysis as a threat, then you're not dominant. It's not possible. So dominant and dangerous. Dominant, domineering, and dangerous are different to me. Absolutely. I understand that. So what I'm going to do, go ahead up while I look up something real quick, Mandrell.
What do you want me to say? I mean, you made a very good point. You know, you can't be dominant without being dangerous. However, women say they want a dominant man, but when dominance comes in, real dominance, they have no idea what it is. They're expecting the guy to, like, if they buck up at him, they're expecting him to buck back. Dominant men don't work like that. You buck up at him, in his mind, he's like, okay, noted. He just took a note. Now, if you smart off with him and you're being disrespectful, he's going to check that. He is going to check you, but it's not going to be in a yelling, screaming, "I'm going to fight so we can have makeup sex later" type of way. It's not like that. It's not like that. Like dominant men, it was like, okay, that's how you roll. Okay, later. He's just going to dismiss you, and it will break his heart to do so. But dominant men understand sacrifice. Masculinity understands sacrifice as a part of life. It's a part of discipline. We're used to sacrificing. We're used to being disciplined. That's why sacrificing you is it's a part of life. That's why you see a lot of guys who get divorced or break up in relationships and move on so fast. It's probably because they, like women do, men do it too. They saw something in you for a while. They told you about it and told you about it and told you about it, but you never corrected the behavior. Or it was something that he thought that I never should have had to correct you on that. If you're still doing that, you're not ready for this relationship. He sees that and he's like, all right, I'm going to have to let it go. And he goes through the painstaking process of letting it go emotionally before he pulls the trigger on you. And then he's able to go and move on. Sometimes that happens. But masculine men, they just let it go. That's right. Give you the salute. like me and my relationships, I'm not going to sit here and argue with a woman. I'm just not. You know what I'm saying? Like my lady Arshan, we don't argue. We don't fight. We talk. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, like I don't understand. I just don't understand the point of arguing with you. Why would I argue with you? Why would you want to argue with me? Because I know for a fact there's nothing I've done that's that bad. Where you got to yell and scream and all that stuff. I don't move like that. You say it's something, hey, I don't like this. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that. Like ever. Unless I really, 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 really have to. And I'm going to let you know before I do it. Hey, I'm going to have to do this because of that. And you ain't going to like it, but this is why. And I'll explain all that to you. Why I got to do it and everything. But it's got to be done. And women, they say they want a dominant man, but they don't know what to do when they get a real one, Arshan. Because I think they don't understand. They don't understand, and they've never seen real dominance. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? They've never seen real masculinity. It's like you said, when they see masculinity, they don't know what to make of it. They really don't, you know, so and it confuses them and throw them off. And they say, oh no, this is too weird. I gotta go find some toxicity so I can be me.
Yeah.
And they go run right off and get into a toxic relationship. You had a fantastic guy. Well, you didn't have to worry about any of the BS with the lies. You didn't have to worry about cheating. You didn't have to worry about any kind of shenanigans. Your values and everything lined up the same. You know what I'm saying? But because he didn't yell and scream at you, like I met a woman, Arshawn, who said, you know, if a man don't beat you, he don't love you. And she was dead serious. We were in our 20s at the time. This wasn't a chick I was dating or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I never dated her or anything like that. But I met her and I was like, you got to be. I thought she was joking at first, but no, she was dead serious. And I was like, you serious?
Yeah.
She's like, yeah. She truly believes that,
man. There's a lot of dysfunctional people. I'm dysfunctional. I'm not preaching down on anybody when I say that. I'm dysfunctional. I'm just saying there are a lot of people who have been brought up in a way that broke them so that they're attracted to things that are unhealthy. Even like there are people. We were doing a story and there was a lady that was on an oxygen machine outside of a hospital and she was asking somebody to get her some cigarettes. Like we do things that are self-destructive. We do things that my grandfather, he was in the hospital from heart surgery and had people go get him White Castles. Like, so I'm just saying people do it self-destructive.
Yeah, we do.
Absolutely.
We do it.
Shout out to Big Rig Slaps in the building, man. Thank you for joining the conversation. I'm still trying to watch the chat. I'm sorry, the StreamYard bugged out on me and I can't pull up the stuff.
But that's something I've never understood either. Like I've never made a decision that was going to be self-destructive like that, right? Anything that I've done that was self-destructive is because I was taking a chance on something else. I was taking a risk in order to receive a reward, you know, for this action, and before I make decisions like that, I do weigh the cost-benefit ratio. Okay, now if I fail, I lose everything. But if I win, I get everything. I would never take a bet like that. The risk is too much, dude. And the thing is, I know how hard I worked in my life. I know what I've been through to get where I am and to become the man that I am today. That's too much for me, Harsha.
I'm with
But
you.
right, you said right. People say high value man, this, that, and the other, but I'm like, what? And people bring up money. If you can get money, this and other, but where are you putting value on the character? And see, character is the thing I value most. Even in myself, I value my character. You know, I like who I am. I love me. I love the person that I am, genuinely. You know, I'm glad I grew up to be the person I am, the man that I am today. You know, because there are very few men out there, man, like this. And it shocked me when I came to YouTube. It shocked me just how few there were. I really couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I was like, wow, this whole thing's a bag of cats.
No, I absolutely agree. And I like the word candidate, and you both came up with calculated risks. I think a lot of what the dysfunction is not knowing what's a good risk to take and what's a good outcome to pursue. A lot of things that we would say are dysfunction. I think that's it. Not having the value set that drives you towards taking good risk and seeking good outcome. I think that's at the root of dysfunction if we were to give it a different name. I do want to address a comment. I'm trying to see what language is used for true danger to society, because there are some men who are not the good kind of danger. We're going to be talking about that. So what adjective we're using. Got you. And I want to address the wireless woman's comment. People, not that one. I just don't understand how a convo about dangerous men is so heavily influenced by the response of women. Well, wireless woman, unfortunately, we do not live in a vacuum. So men exist in a world with women. There we have a symbiotic relationship. The things that men do are heavily predicated by women. We discussed that a little earlier, which I know you may have come in afterwards. So if a lot of the things that men do, the first video that we played talked about how a lot of the undeveloped man, I think the infantile man, if a lot of the things that an undeveloped man does is in relation to trying to please and attain the favor of women, women cannot be removed from the conversation of why a man does what he does. If we always say how many men and children are brought up in, how many children are brought up in a home that's single parent driven, and that single parent is a woman, women cannot be removed from the conversation about how men show up in the world. If men are being asked to curtail or restrain some of their nature or their traits or the things that we assume to be their nature based upon tradition, and the people that are asking it that don't feel safe around us are typically women, because there is a high degree of violence that goes into intergender. Well, then again, we cannot remove women from the conversation about how men show up in the world. That has to be an important part of the conversation. I honestly, it wouldn't even make sense to talk about dangerous natures in men, the good or the bad aspect of it, without talking about women who are constantly online talking about the threat that we face to them, pose to them physically and sexually. I know it's a high degree of sexual violence in children because of men. So the jails are filled with violence, unrestrained violence and depravity from men. So it's not all enacted upon men. Women exist in the world that men live in as well. So trying to divorce it would be some sort of magic that I wouldn't be able to pull off. I wouldn't be able to pull that off. So it's important to couch it in how men interface with the world around them. We talked about men in business. We talked about men as children with their mothers. And we've talked about men in relation to in dating spaces. We talked about men in marriage. So I think we've covered quite a range of how men show up in the world in all the different zones. It's not just about women. We talked about character and value development, morals in men, having a disciplined body and mind in men. We've talked about quite a bit. And it's not particular. It's not specific to that one part of the convo that you came in on. Let me see.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have one comment that says that she thinks they recognize dominance pretty quickly. I think it was Dawn. Mm-hmm. She says, "You think so?" As a question. I think they recognize strong men right away. They're the ones. They are really vying for. The rest is just dysfunction. I have to respectfully disagree. I don't think women, not all women, so you may be one of those lucky few who does recognize a strong man when you see one. You recognize how they move. So I'm not speaking about you specifically, Don. So, but there are, I think, the vast majority of women, based on what I've seen out here, right? Just based on my observation, the vast majority of women don't recognize strong men, because when you ask them to describe what's a strong man, almost none of that is on the list of what a strong man is. They may get lucky and just list one at the most. And it's crazy to look at and hear, and it doesn't matter race. Race doesn't matter here. I mean, this is across all races, except because you have some in all races, but I think there are other races who come from other cultures where, okay, the boys are groomed this way from birth, and the women are groomed a certain way from birth, and they hold on to that and they make it a tradition. Manhood and femininity, they make that a tradition in their culture. It's a part of their culture. Masculinity, healthy feminism, femininity. I think that every culture would do well to adopt that ideal. But first, I think that Americans, we have to re-educate ourselves on what masculinity is, what manhood is, what's a strong man versus a weak man. We don't recognize strength. We don't recognize real power. Look, if you talk about the black community, black men, we don't even know what power is.
Facts. We
don't understand power. It's like I said before, someone asked me this before. This isn't mine. I got this, another guy, an African guy, told me this, but he's a good man and very insightful. He said, black men in this country, black men don't understand power. I agreed with him, but I wanted to hear his perspective on why. He said, because it has nothing to do with how loud you are. I agree with that too. It has nothing to do with how aggressive you are. That's not power, because power knows when to be aggressive and when not to be. It knows when to sit still, how to be patient. There's a book called War and Peace, right? 1,440 pages. It takes a while, but it's worth the read. But there's a line in there that's been made famous now. It says the strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience. See, from masculinity, from men, we have to understand that it takes bravery to be patient. It takes fortitude to sit still, just as it is an act of cowardice to move when you should not. It's brave to sit still. You don't have to keep moving and doing stuff. Like these people who go out all the time. I got to get out 3 days a week. Why? Why do you have to do that 3 days a week? I've never understood this, Arshawn. Why do you have to go out and do something? Now, it's different if you're married and you still want to date your wife. I get it. Hey, date your wife. Take the woman out once a week, a Saturday or a Sunday. You don't have to go out shopping or anything or go to a restaurant and do something super fly, nothing like that. Just go outside with her. Go outside. Go for a walk or something. Don't just be cooped up in the house. I don't care what it is. Find something to do with your wife. But that's courage. That's integrity. You know what I'm saying? That's character. Being patient. Because people who are patient, they're honest. 9 times out of 10, you can trust them. Now, you got some super villains out there now who are patient as well. If you find a patient man who's evil, that's a super villain. Run. Run. We were talking about dangerous men. Nah, it takes a superhero to fight that. Okay, ladies, you ain't got it. You ain't got enough for him. Run.
And I wanted to acknowledge what Bree said because I think it's also true. I do believe a lot of people recognize the dominance and strength that you're talking about, but they reject it. They just don't like the way it feels. They don't like it in their life. So, I mean, the same way a lot of people reject discipline and structure, I think a lot of people reject a lot of things that would be. People don't like vegetables. I had to learn to like some vegetables.
Hey,
we reject some healthy things.
Sean, let me tell you something. You just drizzle it a little bit with a little olive oil, right? Sprinkle a little, just sprinkle a little garlic salt on them. Wait, sprinkle a little garlic salt on them.
I hear you,
man. That's good eating.
That's how you cook, man. I don't like nothing soggy and mushy.
No. Throw them. Get you some parchment paper. Put it on top of a cookie sheet.
Bake it.
Put them 450 degrees in the oven. 20 minutes.
Gotcha.
But yeah, man, that's some good eating, man. And since you're using the parchment paper, you can do it without. You can season it without the olive oil. Yeah.
And to Marcus, I know Marcus asked a question a little bit back. Sorry. Now again, I can't scroll in StreamYard. The comments are not coming up, but I saw when I was trying to scroll on my phone. You asked a question, and we're talking about being a danger in all of the ways. Now, the way we use danger, then there's a negative connotation automatically attached to the word danger. So people will reject that word danger just on its surface. I understand that. But Mandrell did bring up a superhero, supervillain dynamic. Lex Luthor was just a regular man, a physical threat, but he was calculating and patient. So he was very threatening and harmful to society at large. Superman was a space alien who could shoot laser beams out of his eyes, freeze breath. He could probably punch through the planet. He was dangerous, but his power was restrained, controlled, and governed by a sense of morality and ethics. So when we say dangerous, I'm not speaking about the way we use danger to a negative connotation. I'm talking about the ability to be effective in any domain based upon the threat that you're facing. You have to be as dangerous as your greatest threat. So if you have yourself or your family and somebody or something is coming against you, whether it's a wild animal or not, you may have to be as dangerous as that wild animal. It just may be a thing that you might have to do to survive. So that's where that went. I want to play this next short video. It's about 3 short minutes from my guy, Jordan Peterson.
And this is part of the reason that I'm an admirer of Carl Jung, because Jung makes it very clear that, see, he was very interested in the barrier.
Who didn't have powers? Superman had powers? Don't get me started in the comic book thing. Now, I said Lex Luthor was just a man. I said he was just a man, but he was patient and calculating. And he used, anyway,
barriers to enlightenment. Because if there's such a thing as being enlightened, let's say, then why isn't everyone enlightened? If it's just a matter of taking the glorious route and following your bliss, let's say, it's like, well, that sounds pretty easy. Why isn't everyone enlightened? But Jung's thinking isn't like that at all. You know, he believed that in order to transform your personality, that first of all, you had to be disciplined, that's for sure. But you also had to integrate that part of you that was terrible and capable of breaking rules and make it part of you. And so then, and I really like that idea. Well, here's an example. So about 20 years ago, I would say, there was a newspaper headline in one of Canada's major newspapers, and it was the Minister of Foreign Affairs at that time, Lloyd Axworthy, and he was talking about what had happened with Milosevic in the former Soviet Union in Yugoslavia and the atrocities that were being committed. And he said that he was caught unawares by that because he didn't have the imagination for that kind of evil. And I thought, well, you know, you think that what you're doing is signaling your virtue by making a statement like that. But from my perspective, all you're doing is stating your cowardice and your historical ignorance, because if you're going to be Minister of Foreign Affairs, you bloody well better have imagination for that kind of evil. Because if you don't, then anyone who does wins. They beat you. And so you know, again, in the Harry Potter stories, you see he's touched by evil, right? He actually has a soul fragment that's embedded within him that's as black as anything can possibly be. That's why he can talk to snakes. But without that, he wouldn't be able to have any victory. And that's exactly right psychologically. Unless you can think the way that an evil person thinks, then you're defenseless against them, because they'll go places you can't imagine, and then they win. And so the best men I've met, it was interesting even when I was in junior high and high school, because most of my friends dropped out, you know, by the time they were grade 10, thereabouts. And a lot of them were guys who developed physically. They're pretty powerful, and they're just damn sick of putting up their hand to go to the bathroom. It's like, you know, they're not doing that anymore. One of my friends got kicked out when he sort of challenged the gym teacher, you know, physically. And the gym teacher, he could do an iron cross. He was a tough guy, and so it was no trivial matter for my friend to stand up to him, but he got expelled anyways. But, you know, I noticed that it was often the kids whose character I admired that either quit or got expelled, and they were the tougher guys who were just sick and tired of following rules that didn't take into account their character, and then they'd go off and work in oil rigs or whatever. You could do that in Alberta at that time. That was really hard work, you know, so it wasn't like they were necessarily taking the easy path. But like, a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And you know, you also see that like one of the central female stories, let's say, if the hero archetype is the central male story, there are variants of hero archetypes that are relevant to women, and one of them is Beauty and the Beast. And you know, Beauty isn't interested in the guy who isn't the beast. She's interested in the guy who's the beast, and that's exactly right. But she's interested in the guy who's the beast that can be civilized and disciplined, right, and who can use that in the service, well, let's say, of a family.
Yeah, send me the link to that. I love Jordan Peterson. You muted, Arshawn.
Yeah, that's my guy right there. My bad. Yeah. I'm trying to. I wish I could bring up the daggone comments. It's bothering me. But yeah, I see y'all. It's what I'm trying to get to the point of is that in society, because the threats to us as people, the threats to us as community, the threats to us as society, they're never going to stop being as threatening as possible. Their malevolence does not have a limit. The moment you impose the limit, you cap your ability to respond. So
right.
That's why I say the danger has to be allowed and baked into the men, because you're building the men that are going to be the protectors. You're building those men, and if you cap their ability to respond, if you cap their danger because you feel threatened because we're bigger, stronger, faster, you're also capping your protection. That's what we're seeing play out in society. Men have been capped at a certain point, and now they're not able to respond to the threats because we're just not built for it. Because the threats are always going to be built different. They're always going to be extreme. And if we're not as extreme as they are, no matter how much we care, they're going to rule over us. And everybody wonders why everything is the way it is. Well, maybe it's because the people that we say sit at the head, the people that we say should be leaders, the people that we want to be dominant have been made to not be, even in their childhood. The way they're reared out of being individualized. They're reared out of the traits that show their nature. They're reared, like he talked about the guys at school. They're going through schools, and I have another video what I have as part of a whole different breakdown, where men systemically from school on are put into environments where our base traits, our natures are antithetical to the systems that we're put into. School, these office jobs, like the guy said, they could get off, they could leave school, they could drop out and go work on the rigs. Industrial age is over. Men can't just go get a whole lot of physical jobs because the typical American is going to be priced out by cheap labor that's coming from elsewhere or robots. So men can't even work through those physical manifestations of our energy in employment because that's been overdone. That's been automated. It's been automatized. There are bots for that are bigger, stronger, faster, don't need breaks, don't need lunches, need one person to maintain them. So men don't even have the outlets unless they're recreational outlets, like Mandrell goes to the gym. But in their normal life where they find meaning and purpose, where are those outlets? So we're going to have to retrain the boys, retrain the men, so that that danger can be pointed at the threats that have overrun our society because we've fallen down on the job. That's the point of this. Definitely not speaking solely about the Black community, because we're not the only ones having the same problem. But I am talking about the United States. I am talking about the United States. But if you listen to when they talk about incels, when we're red pill and all that stuff, those communities, the people that Jordan Peterson typically speaks to are the same type of men that are having the same type of problems. Just in the Black community, it comes out different. So in the Black community, where you might have like gang initiation, gang brotherhoods, where they're looking for their to express their masculinity. No, the aggression, the competition, a lot of those traits that get exercised in like gangs and stuff like that. In, I guess, different types of culture, you end up with some people who are maladaptive, but they don't maybe go to groups. Maybe they're poorly socialized. So they end up individual. A lot of them would end up towards the school shooter, mass shooter lane. So that same expression of masculinity that's undeveloped, unrestrained, that has not seen how a man can be forged into something useful and purposeful for society. Like Mandrell talked about service. If you haven't found something to dedicate your energy to, well, idle hands are the devil's playground, is that old adage. Yes, your hands are going to go to something constructive or to something destructive. But very few people sit idle. I've got a whole nother video breakdown about neurology, about what people do with their time. They can't sit still. Like Mandrell said. Quiet Bree said, woo, the incels are a huge problem. Kenneth said, I'm not totally sure about that. I've worked above a trading floor for many years, and those office job men are very dangerous, very powerful. This is not a one-to-one. So not every man, first of all, has the traits of wanting to be physical. Not every man manifests that. So this is not a one-to-one. This is a generalization. So the general man, if you go and listen to any Jordan Peterson video and look into the comments, you'll see the same theme repeated from various men across various cultures. The society, and again, I can pull up some stuff where some neuroscientists and some psychologists are talking about this in depth and in greater detail with statistical evidence. I have those videos as well. Men are in a society where the energy or the dynamic has shifted from a masculine zone to a feminine zone. And there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to account for that. It's got to be accounted for. Hold up real quick. But I do want to, Mandrell, you could jump in, but I do want to go over to the negative aspect of this, because there is a negative aspect. If these things are not tempered, if these things are not focused.
Right. If they're not tempered, like I never knew I was a good leader until someone told me. I didn't want to be in leadership. I had no interest in it at all. You know what I'm saying? I knew the responsibility came with it. You know, I wanted nothing to do with it though. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, just let me do my job and be that. Okay, I just want to do my part. No, you're in. But then fast forward years later, you know, they were telling me, look, now you have the experience. You know, so what? Why was I always put in leadership? Because you can lead. I'm like, how? I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of calling it as I see it, winging it most of the time. He's like, that's leadership. The answer, you know, and I was like, so what were my characteristics that led you to believe I was a leader? You're tempered and measured. You know what I'm saying? Patient, humble, all the things I say to people to be. That's what someone told me I was. For me, I was just being myself and made the best decisions possible. I think that it'd be better if we did this. And then, well, I'm not sure about this part. Arshawn, you know anything about this? Yeah. Tell me what you know about that. This and that. What do you think would be the best course of action? I think if we did this and okay. So you sure none of the rest of this would be better? Yeah, I'm sure that's be the best course of action. All right, cool. That's what we're doing. I also, so as you see it, people who are under my command, I also took advice from them. If it's something I didn't know anything about, then after we got back to Garrison, hey, give me a crash course in this. I sit there and I would take notes and let them tell me about whatever it was, you know, and be taught and be educated on it, because I need to be educated on things I don't know about. But yeah, being tempered and measured, it has to be disciplined. I know how violent I can be. The real reason why I never get in a street fight, Arshawn, is because I know myself. If I'm in a street fight, I'm assuming you're trying to kill me, and there are no lengths I'm gonna go to protect myself. Or if it, God forbid, if it's my sister or my girlfriend or someone I love with me, I have no limits as to how far I'm gonna go. I will rip limbs off, gouge out eyeballs, like out of the socket. There's no limit to where I'm gonna go, and that ain't pretty. You know, it's a street fight. I don't know what you're gonna do. You know what I'm saying? So that ain't pretty. And I understand the fact that you have to be willing to go as far, at the minimum, as far as your enemy is in order to compete. I understand and accept that fact. So it's more so I'm more so afraid of myself than anyone else. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that position, so I stay away from violence, all that crazy
Reckless.
stuff. So I mean, yeah, like Dr. Jordan Peterson said, it has to be that's the discipline. I know I'm dangerous, but I know I'm dangerous, but I choose to be peaceful. That's a peaceful person. A peaceful person is not a person who can't defend themselves, so they don't so they don't talk shit. You know, they don't start trouble because they can't defend themselves and someone pops in their mouth, nothing they can do about it. No, a peaceful person is a person who can destroy things, but chooses not to. Chooses to be peaceful. Chooses the best, you know, the path of diplomacy. If you don't have the choice, then how does that make you a peaceful person? You know, how many people you know were bullied growing up, but then they're going to be a cop or something and trying to be a total dick?
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's how you know the difference. You know, like Jordan Peterson just said in a video. What do you say? It was like a good man is not a peaceful man. A dangerous man is a good man. And that's the truth, because that man, he could do a lot of things, but he chooses. He could be a rotten guy, right? He has the option to do that, but he chooses not to do it.
Yeah, a harmless man is not a good man. Yeah,
no,
because the world is harmful. The world, the night is dark and full of terrors. And I want to say shout out to Reckless Logic in the building. So I wanted to a couple of different other.
Hey, Reckless, how you doing?
We got to talk about the other side of it, because I knew the women were going to bristle with the dangerous. I knew the women were going to bristle.
Reckless is too. He just ain't watching. I think he popped in to say hello and left. Yeah,
but the other side of it is a lot of men, because we didn't have examples like that very first video talked about. A lot of men do not understand the sacrifice that's required, or would be, or may be required to be dominant. So there's a lot of, like what Candidae called the fragile ego. The fragile ego that's looking to protect itself and not protect and preserve what's around it and what's loved, what's cared for, because there's nothing that it loves other than itself. So there are a lot of men who are only looking to defend themselves or their what do you call that? Their reputation. But they're not actually looking to serve anyone other than themselves. And that's another problem, because that becomes a different type of danger. They lash out. You've seen them on panels. They can't handle critique. They can't handle criticism. That's threatening behavior. That's a weak situation. That's cornered animal type behavior. So all dangers are not created equal. So I know we have an automatic negative connotation to danger, but danger has a full spectrum as well. Like what they say, drinking water You can have water toxicity. Water can be, you can drown in water, but it also feeds you life. So think about that same dynamic of positivity and negativity when it comes to the word danger as we apply it to men and women, because everybody needs to have a power within them that they carry into the world. If you have power, you are a danger in some kind of way. A mother is a danger to her child, but she needs to be to protect it. She needs to be able to care for it, to carry it. You have to have the strength to carry the burden that you're tasked with. So that makes you a danger to anybody that's under that level of power. That's just a power dynamic. That's a neutral concept. But we put a lot of feeling into a lot of different words. And I want to demystify some of them, including danger. There are malevolent, evil, violent, predatory people who will harm you for nothing more than the joy that they get from it, the satisfaction of seeing you wince or cry or scream. There are those people. They do exist. But we also have to account for that with somebody who will protect against those type of threats. And if they've never been able to manifest power, to walk in any kind of authority, they'll never take on that threat. It just won't happen. You'll call on them and they won't show up. What was that, Uvalde? Was that the school shooting where the cops wouldn't go in and they waited outside?
Yep.
That's the kind of thing that will happen when you have people that are pretending to be dangerous, that have the look of authority, but carry none. When the threats arise, you'll have no protectors, and the women and children will go unprotected. The other men will go unprotected, because not every man should be in the warrior class, in my opinion. Not every man is cut the same way. Some people are what was it, Aristotle with the different classes? There was the warrior. There was like the thought person. I can't think of the name he used, but there are different classifications of people. There's no monolith among men either. But there is a warrior class. There is a protective class. People that their traits send them towards combat and competition that makes them great for that domain. And if you develop their aptitude, if you develop their character, they can serve the community and protect their families. But they have to be as dangerous as the threats that they have to face, or they'll cower in fear when the threats show up. So again, that's why I think this conversation is important. You have to be able to wield maximum force, but have the power that comes with it, the restraint and the discipline. What is not required to be a dangerous individual, to hold danger within you, is to be malevolent, predatory, vicious, or vindictive. But even the Bible says to be wise as a serpent. Like Jordan Peterson just talked about, you have to know the kind of things that you're up against and know how they move. You have to have as mind as sharp as those things that will come up against you. But be harmless as a dove is on the back end of that. So you have to be prepared for the threats and choose to do no harm, like Mandrell talked about. I think another thing that you see a lot of men breaking, and we're going to talk about that in a quick second too. Bree shared something in my Discord there's a channel called Art and Bree. And there was a guy, there are a lot of guys that try to take on a dominant position, but they're not ready for it. They're not trained for it. They haven't seen it. They haven't practiced it. They had no rites of passage. So he broke. They're trying to homestead with 7 children. And this man just broke. He kind of tapped out on his family, putting his entire family at risk because he just tapped out in the wilderness. So other people have to step in and gather up the family. The brother bought her a house, thankfully brought his sister a house. And the husband's just, I don't even know what he's doing. But he tapped out on the wife and the kids because he had a vision, a fantasy of being the dominant provider. Like I'm going to run a homestead by myself with a wife and 7 kids. You cannot give yourself over to somebody who has not gone through rites of passage and proven themselves in some kind of way. That's what another problem that we're having. People are not able to prove themselves. And when the pressure comes, because we talked about that earlier, when the pressure of life comes upon them, they break, they buckle. And again, I say all the time, I'm not preaching down because I'm one of them type people. I will cave. I'm a caver. I'll run it high. I will. But I'm trying to do better. I am trying to work through some of my issues, including but not limited to therapy, dealing with things I don't want to do. The conversations with me, Bree and Mandrell, have brought up some things that I need to I got to do it. I know y'all said it's sad. He's somewhere in the woods out here roasting twigs. He doesn't have results. Yeah, if you don't have results, you got to be careful. Some of the potential has to be manifest so that you have something. There's got to be something that you can gauge. It has to be something you can grade. There has to be something that you can see. Facts. What have you been through? They have no foundation, and then the storms of life come, and that house fall. And how great is that fall? It's big. And here's another one. I'm going to play this last video now. This is tragic. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Bree shared this, but this is another way men break when they're dangerous, but they're unrestrained and undisciplined. So trigger warning. If you have sensitive palates, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds before I play this one. All right.
People who end up shooting their families usually have these sorts of stories.
Some of what's in the Enoch report matches warning signs published by the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It warns abusive behavior includes insulting, demeaning, or shaming you, especially in front of others, preventing you from making your own decisions, preventing or discouraging you from spending time with others, and showing jealousy of time with others.
2 years later, they are now bagging up the bodies of every single person in this family, including Macy, who was trying to get her family help from this monster who ultimately annihilated every single one of them. An obituary that was published in the St. George Spectrum last week described Michael in glowing terms as an Eagle Scout, a businessman, and a father who made it a point to spend quality time with each and every one of his children. The obituary made no mention of the killings and was quickly taken offline after so much back.
Now, wanted to bring that up because Bree did share it.
You muted.
Oh, it was a Utah family, and it's multiple. It's not the only place. Like we talked about men earlier. We talked about violence against women. We talked a little bit about the violence against women and children. There are men, when they break, they're taking out their families. That's why their character, that's why their sturdiness, that's why these things have to be borne out through the pressures of life. We cannot allow these things to go because there were warning signs. That lady at the very beginning started giving the warning signs of a controlling person. A controlling person who uses force to govern other people's lives through manipulation, coercion, or just physical force. Those are not safe individuals. So although he carried the threatening nature, it was not employed properly because he himself was not aligned properly. He's a deviant. He's a murderer. He's doing this against women and children who were defenseless against him. That's a problem. That's not a danger that a man can be allowed to exist in when the warning signs are present. A lot of us have seen in our families and in our communities things that go unchecked because there's nobody around to check them. There's nobody around when the women are asking for help to step in. So there's a problem with our society where the men are not able and willing to deal with these type of dangers before they snap and are taking out families or committing mass shootings. I guess there was another one in Monterey. There was another guy just going off, just killing random people indiscriminately. I don't know the motive. I haven't studied that one, but I know like 10 or 11 people were just killed. So men are out here killing. They're violent and uncontrolled emotional outbursts. They can't control their mind and their emotions, so they are lashing out at the people in closest proximity to them, most often their families or people in their communities. That has to be dealt with, and there have to be people that can step in and protect. And that's going to require men of equal levels of threat and danger. Unfortunately, you have to fight some fires with fire. Not every fire will be put out by water. Not every single one. Not every single one. There are some things that have to be met with equal force. And that, again, that's my opinion. But what do you think?
You're absolutely right. You're firing on all cylinders today. No, I mean, all I can do is kind of repeat what you just what you just said. I mean, because
but I think you have a deeper perspective from the as a military person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we take military for granted.
They do, and I try to simplify things, and that's why I kind of explain things like you just did. And an issue I have that I found is over explaining things. You know, so I don't want to do that. But here we go. Like, first things first. I mean, like in the tenets of manhood, when I talked about discipline, the first thing on the list was accept the world the way it is. That's number one when it comes to discipline. You know, the first tenet of manhood I had was first episode, first tenet. And this is the first tenet in my book. Understand and accept the fact that no one's coming to save you. That's why I got I'm going to get into it and say, you are your own hero. So save yourself. You know, knowing that, who's going to understand, knowing, accepting, and understanding these things motivates you. You know what I'm saying? It motivates you to get up there and get it. I don't want to go for a run. Hey, I got to do it. Or I don't want to get on the elliptical for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, however long you do it. I got to do it because if the chips are down, the pressure's on, who's coming to save me? No one. So what I got to do? Save myself. You know? So, and that's something I came up with myself, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? But you have to. And the discipline is probably the most important part about it, because being a man actually has nothing to do with lifting weights or changing a tire. It's the discipline and the character, because the character, if you have the character and the core, right, it's going to branch off into everything else. You're going to go lift weights because of these things I said. You know what I'm saying? You need to be able to protect yourself, protect the people you love. You're going to take martial arts or boxing or some sort of combat sport. You know what I'm saying? Get involved in that so you can be proficient at it. You know, and that way the only person who can really do anything to you is the other person who knows it. Because if you're a striker, God help you if you run into a grappler. You know, and you don't know how to grapple. You know what I'm saying? So because he gets you to the ground, you were unprepared. You were unwilling to go as far as he did. He practiced grappling and striking. So not only can he meet you where you are, but he can take you places you have no clue how to navigate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like I say, the first things first, the first lesson is discipline, in my opinion. Accept the world the way it is, understand that no one's coming to save you, and be your own. You have to be your own hero. Understand those three things first and accept them. Now let's start with the discipline, because that's the most important part, because I think you start with the discipline first as early as humanly possible. That way when you get into the other stuff, the discipline is already being fed into the child, right? And you connect the discipline with the dangerous part. Because it's just like this video said, you got a guy who's out there who's dangerous. Like me, I know how violent I can be, right? I know what my potential is to be violent if I need to be, right? The scary part for me is I honestly don't think that that's the limit. As violent as how I've been in my life, only when the occasion calls for it. I don't even think I know for a fact that I could get worse if need be. But I have to understand that it's not just because I can go to jail if I do something stupid. I just don't want to hurt people. It serves no purpose to needlessly hurt people. So I don't want to do it. So I choose not to do it for my own reasons, you know what I mean? And that's the part of the discipline. That's why this kind of thing has to be, like I said, has to be tempered. It has to be measured. It has to be taught. You have to learn to be a man. You have to learn how to be dangerous. It ain't enough to just get out there and fight. You see kids in the hood all the time. Fight, fight, fight. You got parents pushing their kids to fight, but not teaching them the discipline. So when their kid acts out in school or acts out at home, what's wrong with you? Well, you just taught him to be. Listen, if a man is dangerous, but without the discipline, everything to him looks like a steak. It's like a lion, but you hadn't fed him in 3 days. Everything looked good to him. You gave a lion claws, but no food. The food is a discipline. But you gave him the claws and the fangs. They're going to come. You're not safe then with an undisciplined man, ladies. That ain't safe. You can be 7 foot tall. Yeah, that ain't safe.
I just want to I'm so sad that my comments are not properly working, because the wireless woman said Mandrell and Rashawn have the appearance of a combined age of 28. It's wild watching two preteens talk about manhood.
Who said that?
Wireless woman. Wireless woman, guys.
Oh, thank you very much, wireless woman. I mean, you found out how old we really are. I mean,
yeah,
it might surprise you. But
and Kansas Ann says she would love to have this same conversation, but focused on women, not about being a dangerous woman, but more so the tenets that were discussed.
Oh, the tenets of womanhood.
Yeah,
Kansas Ann, you know, I love you. You know our relationship. I mean, you know, we like that with each other. So I can tell you this with absolutely no ego. I have absolutely no clue how to do that.
Oh, yeah, it wouldn't be us.
I'm not a woman. I've never been one.
Yeah,
I can't tell. I don't know.
That wouldn't be us giving that. That wouldn't be us giving that talk. Yeah, that
right.
That's not for us.
I have absolutely no clue how to do that. But if just in case you haven't been watching my content, I have been doing a series called The Tenets of Manhood. Last night I didn't do it. Last night was kind of it's called American Anarchy, and I just went through a few stories that I saw in the news that were just absolutely insane. But yeah, before that, the past 3 shows before that, I did Tenets of Manhood 1, 2, and 3. Check it out and tell me what you think. You know, hit me up on Instagram or whatever. You know, however you can reach out to me. Just let me know what you think, because I honestly want feedback on it. Is it even? Because I want to know, is it even worth doing? Because a lot of people are talking our Sean, but they're not doing what we're doing, teaching. You know, and that's what I look at this video that you're doing here today. You're teaching, and I love it.
I'm glad you're here for it, man. I just want to close this out pretty much with a quote. I'm going to drop the link real quick if anybody just wants to come up and chop it up with us for a few minutes before we head up out of here. But one of the things I like as a quote, and I believe in this, is by Frederick Douglass. It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So I think there has to be an emphasis placed on grooming and teaching young men and women so that they are showing up better in the world, because they become the adults. The reason this generation is so broken is because we were left to break prior, and for different reasons. I'm not laying fault at anyone's, especially gender. I'm not saying men or women, it's their fault, but the fact is balls were dropped. And I don't mean it the way Mandrell used it earlier. People dropped the ball at certain, and there might all kinds of societal factors played into that. I get that. I'm just saying that if we want to see a better world, we're going to have to create it through the choices that we make today. That's my only point. I see a lot of conversations about men and the way we show up in the world. And I just thought that maybe it was slightly misguided. And it's not that we need to show up less dangerous. We need to show up more restrained. We need to show up more disciplined. We need to show up more empathetic. We need to show up with more sacrifice. We need to show up with a purpose. Not that we should show up harmless, because that's not useful to anybody. I think we need to groom the men so that the danger and the risk that we're willing to take are serving a greater good. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. What about you? What you got, Mandrell?
That's my story too, Arshawn. We need to groom men, and also ladies. If you have a man in your life and he's trying to groom the boy to be a man, short of abuse, that's the key here. Short of abuse, stay out of the way. Do not intervene. Do not come back behind the man. If the boy's crying, don't come back behind your man and console the child. Oh, baby, it's okay. It's okay. No, he doesn't need that. He needs both. Now, you can nurture him later. So you nurture him the next day, but not immediately after the lesson. He needs time to let that lesson soak in. Whatever he's crying about, he needs to process it. And I think that a lot of you ladies, you want men who are stoic. You want men who are disciplined and dangerous and competent. But I can guarantee you, most of you are not going to like to see how the sausage is made. You're not going to like to see what it takes to forge a man. For me, it was cake. You know what I'm saying? But that was my life because that was just the way I was raised. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I mean, for some women, they're like, no, that's too much. That's too much. But for me, it was Thursday. I was still allowed to be a child and go outside and play and stuff. But yeah, ladies, that's my thing to you. Stay out of the way when men are doing their jobs. Because as sorry of a state as manhood and masculinity is in today, you got to take the blame for that also, because you're the ones raising them. We have to take the blame for not being there. I'm not going to get into a debate of which one is worse, because I think they're both equally as bad. Men not being there and women raising the men that they're complaining about. But because you're equally as bad. I mean, it would be the men that were worse, but it's equally as bad on you because you keep doing it, knowing you're doing the wrong thing, knowing you're wrong. That's what that's what gives you the extra boost that puts you on par with the absentee fathers. In my opinion, of course. You don't have to agree. I respect your opinion. But that's just me. Stay out the way.
All right, I want to greet the guests on the panel. We got the wireless woman getting connected, and we got Bolo TV in the building. First time, man. Appreciate both of y'all for coming up. But wireless woman, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and start us off. What did you bring to the table today? Well, and I don't mean that in that manosphere way. I don't mean that in a manosphere way. What did you bring to the table? My bad. Verbiage was bad on that one.
I brought the table. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound good. You sound good.
Okay, perfect. Because you know how I am about a struggle stream, but I could not resist. First, I have a question. Mandrell, do you have children?
No, ma'am. I have not. I have yet to be so blessed.
Okay. I mean, I knew you was 14 and a half, and y'all be streaming on Twitch and stuff, so I wasn't sure. I figured not, but I wasn't sure because when you said what you said about equaling out the blame between the women who raised the children and the men who abandoned them and feeling that was equal, I said, okay, here's a man who has no children. I have two sons. One is an adult man, a little bit older than you, Mandrell. So he's 18. So what I have found is that we as women do the best we can, but you release your children to the culture. And as much as women would love to be the bearers of culture, we can kind of only pass on the culture that we're given, because everything that comes to a woman comes from the man. We get our names from men, our surname anyway. And then we switch those names out when we go from fathers to husbands. And it's the same for the children, because ultimately my male son is a Sandoval. He carries his father's name, his father's image for the most part, because that's how you get juniors and all that different stuff. And he's the only one out of my ex-husband's children that will continue his lineage and his name, because my daughter will take another man's name when she married. So I really feel that the brunt of responsibility in that situation falls on men. And the only reason why I say that is because I actually agree with everything that y'all have said on the panel today. Great job, men. I'm really appreciative that y'all had the conversation with yourselves, because I don't think men should be policing women or that women should be policing men because of how unique our experiences are. But you're absolutely right. Men have to become more dangerous in order to establish black male patriarchy, because patriarchy comes off of the names that are given to children, not necessarily how you govern women. And so we definitely, as black women or women in general and children, need to feel safe, protected, and provided for underneath the umbrella of these dangerous men. So when other men fear men, it gives the protection and the power to women, because women don't naturally fear each other, and most of us don't naturally fear our men anymore. But the problem comes in when men don't fear other male groups. That's what creates, in my opinion, the lack of accountability in the Black community comes from the fact that no one fears our male group.
I like that. I appreciate that perspective. I want to greet Beautifully Animated Speaks, and I want to definitely say hello. Thank you for joining us today. But I want to stick with the order that we showed up. I want Bolo to get us his thoughts in, and then we'll come back to you, Beautifully Animated Speaks, and any responses to the three guests.
Oh, Sean, please let Beautifully Animated speak, please.
Absolutely. Okay.
Let her go.
Let's go, Mrs. Speaks. Come on
How
in.
you doing?
Good. How you doing today? Thank you for coming. First time. I appreciate you.
Hey, I was telling Mandrell, thank you for inviting me. I've been having a blast over here.
Yeah.
Good conversation. Part of the problem with our kids is the fact that people want to keep them as kids, and then when they turn 18, treat them as adults. No. The whole point of raising kids is you're raising them to be independent adults. So that's where I'm at a loss when people don't realize that kids need to be respected as well. You don't just switch up and start respecting them when they're adults. You have to respect them as children and teach them that they deserve respect, and that's how they grow up. You know, expecting respect and giving respect. Just like the marriage thing. Um, you can't expect what you want in a marriage to happen after you get the ring and the paperwork, you sign the paperwork. You have to work your way up to it. So how you want your marriage is how you should treat your relationship. Because like I said earlier, the ring and the paper doesn't change anything. It seals the deal. It doesn't change anything. So there's certain things that you don't want to deal with in your marriage, you better fix it before you get married, because it's not going to change. If you don't fix it, and you don't want to deal with it, that means you can't marry this person. You shouldn't be with this person. You know, um, and that's another problem people set up for themselves. They see a problem that's not changing, and yet they will marry that person anyway. What were you thinking? Why was the ring that bad? Like, did you really want the ring that badly? Did you want the title that badly? Did you want to be able to be like, oh, this is my husband, I'm a wife, I'm married now? I mean, was it really that important? So yeah.
Now you're right. You are absolutely right. Now we got Candid Ann. Welcome to the stage, Candid Ann in the building.
Hi, Candid Ann.
What's up, Mandrell? How are you?
Hey, Candid Ann.
Hey, beautiful. How are you doing today? Hello, Mr.
Pretty
Bolo.
good.
Hey, Miss Candid Ann, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
That's great to hear.
All right, brother Bolo, you passing the mic again, or you gonna go ahead and give us your opening?
No, you gotta let the
ladies first.
I'm gonna let the ladies.
True gentleman.
Yeah,
true
ladies.
gentleman.
Well, I'm
All right.
not going to be up here for long. I just wanted to say one or two things. First, I want to just give a little shout out to Mandrell. I've been following you in these spaces, not following you, but we've been interacting with one another in these spaces for a little while. And to be honest with you, it's been wonderful to see your growth in these conversations. Like, I'm just really being honest. It really has been wonderful to see your growth. I mean, I know that you are coming out of your shell, because before you came out like a cannonball and you were just trolling and being, but it's been a pleasure to see you in some of these more conversations that are a bit more, I'm going to use the word balance. I might not be coming up with the perfect adjective, so a little grace, but just these conversations that are a little bit more balanced. So I just wanted to say that to you. So shout out to you for that. I love it. And the other thing I want to say is I want to give a little some flowers to our Sean, and the reason why I wanted to do so is because oftentimes, I have been preaching about respect and communication and the importance of tempering our speech. And I've been saying this ad nauseum so much over and over and over again. And, there's certainly differences between men and women. And when we're having these kind of conversations, the things that have in the past been disappointing for me has been when I'm trying to listen and get a better insight into how men feel or what you think. And so much focus is, don't do this with baby mamas. Don't do this with Black women. The focus is always circles back to how not to interact with a woman. What I loved about this conversation is that you and Mandrell focused on inward things, on discipline, on tenements that really were about self-growth. And that's where I loved this conversation so much. It was all about focusing on inward growth, financial, spiritual, physical. All those things really had to do with yourself. Not once did you guys mention, stay away from baby mamas, stay away from women that do this. I mean, granted, there's space for that too, but this conversation was different and I enjoyed it immensely. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you guys for having me. I'm going to drop down. But
Thank you, Candidate.
Wait, Candidate, did you ever catch my show called The Answer? It's when I told men how to get submission from women.
Yeah, I love that. That was one of the shows.
Yeah, right. That still flips people's heads today because it had nothing to do with women.
Exactly.
It was all on the dudes, and it was all on the. I'm like, and I said it at the beginning of the show, fellas, this is all on you. It's got nothing to do with the women.
Yeah, and
it blows people's minds because no one wants to take accountability.
Right. And I got called so many bad names after that. But people call me weak, simp. I'm like, I'm still I'm still right though.
That's where the problem is, because I feel like there's just too much hostility towards one another and not enough opening ourselves up to truly making an effort to understand what the other person is going through. Because even though you guys are talking about tenements and principles of manhood, there was a lot that I took from it and learned from it from my personal self and personal growth. I felt like, it presents differently as a woman, but there's still things that I could still take from this and implement. So not to be long-winded or anything like that, but I thank you guys for having this conversation. It was one that I truly, truly enjoyed. I'll drop
Thank
down.
you for saying that. Appreciate you, Candidate.
Sure. Take care.
All right, Brother Bolo, it's your turn now. It's your turn.
Right. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sean, Big Mandrell, and beautiful animated speaks. Thank you guys for having me, and it's an honor to be here. Along with Mandrell, I'm also called a simp because we look in the mirror and we know that accountability and responsibility starts with us. We must understand as men. So these are conversations, that we need to have with men. I always say before I can pay someone else's phone bill, I got to pay mine. I got to make sure that I'm on point and make sure that I'm right. And I think that, excuse me, I think a lot of the times, as young men, we rush to grow. I don't believe people at 22, 23, 24 should be getting married. You don't understand what's going on in this world yet. You don't understand you fully at this point. The human brain finishes developing at the age of 26, 27. So there's still some things that you have to understand and learn. There are some things that you have to, pick up from the other men that surround you, the different perspectives, not just from your father, from the uncles and the different people that are in your lives that can groom you to give you a different perspective to understanding things. We have to understand that it's not always about being a Hulk. I'm saying that, will there be times when you have to be one? Absolutely. But what we have to understand when it comes to being a man knows when to apply pressure and when not to. A man knows when to take the L because he wants to win the war opposed to just winning the battle. As men, we have to know what our worth is. We have to demand our worth in our standards. Once we are able to do that, then we can understand where we need to go. Because again, a lot of the times we find ourselves settling, right? So if I have $100,000 diamond and I know it's worth $100,000, I'm not going to take nothing short of $100,000. And what happens in situations nowadays, we start looking for what we want opposed to what we need when it comes to women. You know, a lot of the times we want that woman that got the fat behind, a woman that looked good, opposed to the woman that's going to be a prayer over you, a woman that's going to multiply what you have, a woman that's going to be your neck. You know what I'm saying? And you be her head. And, you know, and this conversation, I love this conversation because, again, you know, it's a beautiful thing to see men speak about men things. It's not a panel where, you know, we're focusing on everyone else but ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Because and this is the thing. If we're going to be called kings, or if we're going to be called heads, if we're going to be called presidents, but you better understand what kind of responsibility comes with that. A whole lot of responsibility comes with this. And I'll just say a few more things and then I'll be done. To the ladies, we have to understand, if you picked a good husband and you know that he's a good man and you trust this man and you want your son to grow up to be this man or somewhat like this man, then let this man do what he needs to do to get that child to where he needs to be. Don't get in the way. Now, again, of course, it's going to be things that, you know, you're going to see that, you know, he is going to hurt. But this is what men do. You know what I'm saying? This is how men are created, through pain, through suffering. Men are created, decisions that we had to make. You know, we're going to get the bumps and bruises, right? If the mountain was smooth, we couldn't climb it. How many times have you thought that you couldn't do something, and because of the pain and the pressure that was added and applied to you, when you got out of it, you were like, damn, I never thought I could do that. Pressure makes diamonds. So we have to trust the process. If you put your life in this man's hands and you trust him, let him do what he needs to do. He's not going to abuse these children. He's not going to do that. You have to trust the process. And the last thing, you know, what's most important, you know, what the young lady said, beautiful animated, about our children. You know, our children, they learn from what they see. They learn from
Right.
consistency. And that's what we have to understand. Our children, when they're born into this world, they don't understand what's going on around them. Their self-esteem is built by what is presented to them. This is why when you separate that father from that woman, from that little girl, and she doesn't understand what validation is, she doesn't understand what it is to be protected, she doesn't understand what it is to have that man to hold her. This is how they end up on poles. This is how they end up being sold around the world, because they're searching for that love and they have nothing to measure it up against. Nothing. Same thing with these little boys. They have nothing to measure up against. How can I ask my son to be a man and he's never seen one? He's never been around it. When you have these single mothers raising these boys, all you're teaching them is the results of not having a man in the home. That's what you're showing them. So please be more mindful. All of us, we have to be more mindful. We have to be more intentional. We have to be more directional in the decisions that we make and what we show these children. That's all I got, man. Thank you, brother, for allowing me on, Mandrell and Mahala. Beautiful animated. It's good to see you. Hey, guys.
Right.
Thanks, Bolo, as usual. Words of wisdom.
Yeah,
Hey, Bolo,
the gems.
Hey, he comes to the gems, man, every time. Very wise man right there, Bolo.
Yeah.
And real quick, I want to get Beautifully Animated Speaks back in, because I think this is an important point, and I think you might have a great perspective on this. Wireless Woman says men need to check in and help raise daughters too. Just my opinion. Daughters need daddies too.
Yeah,
and I completely agree. I think everybody needs an example of both femininity and masculinity. But Beautifully Animated, what do you think about that point?
I do. I mean, I believe in it, of course. It didn't happen for my daughter, unfortunately, but I mean, she has her grandfather, uncles, and male cousins. Um, you know, my male cousins, whatever. as her male role model. So she still had male role models. It would have been nice for her uh, for a sperm donor to not be sperm donor, but actual father. Um, but I had to do what I had to do to protect my daughter. Um, so,
No,
but
that's
by all means, if you have a man who is willing to be in his child's life, let him be. Let them be.
yeah.
You know, parents who want to be in their child's life and are about their children, they need to be there because those are the people who are providing love and grounding these young people, you know. Um, and it's not just about blood, you know what I'm saying? Because anybody
Mm-hmm.
can be a parent. Um, so you know, wherever that child finds love and strength and protection and everything that they need, that's where they need to be.
Agree
Because
with that cat
just
face.
like there's just
You see it now, right?
right.
That cat face.
That thing is looking at me.
It is.
Oh my goodness! But
Oh shit.
oh my goodness! Come back, meow.
Oh,
um, dang, I forgot what I was gonna say.
I know. That messed me up too. That messed me up too.
Oh my goodness!
But I hear what you're saying. I really think it's important. I think a lot of the problems that I think we have in relationship is a control thing. What I hear when I'm here behind what people say is that men, they'll leave because they resent that the woman tried to control them. They'll say things like she used my kid against me, or she tried to make me do something, or she wanted me to do X and I wasn't with it. They'll use language like that, but what it is she's trying to exert control so that she feels
Oh,
secure.
I know what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that just like there's sperm donors, I believe there's egg donors. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying?
Facts.
Not everybody's meant to be a mother. Not everybody's meant to be a father. You're just a donor.
Yeah. Nah, that's definitely true. And now that the breeze back without the cat, that cat was beautiful.
I'm sorry. It
What's
was
up
like the
with you, Bree?
first picture I could find because my avatar got deleted. So I was like, I had it in there, but no, I just wanted to come in and say it was a great show. Sorry, hold on.
Okay, you had a cat picture, but that sounded like a dog.
Nah, it's a toddler. You know.
Yeah.
Cry.
Hey, she about to
She's
get dead.
pretending to fly an airplane or something. I think it's
Oh,
crashing.
okay.
I think it
Oh,
was
okay.
crashing, maybe. I don't know,
The long descent.
imagination. Yeah, it was a descent.
My bad,
Yeah.
baby. My bad, baby.
But no, I wanted to say it's a good show. Shout out to Mandrell and
Thank you.
Rashawn. You know, once again, we want to give flowers to Blue Mandrell. That's just gonna be what I call you now. It's just been, conversations have been great. I'm not gonna be as mean to you anymore. You've been giving some really helpful advice. So I just want to give you your flowers. Of course, Rashawn, we have our shows all the time. You know, we got the squad going on. So, but this was a great show. I liked hearing it. It was some valuable stuff. I have
Right.
a lot of great men around me in my life, like in real life. And so I find that a lot of what you're talking about, I've been able to see it. And then as far as the girls having, the dad around, I don't think people realize how early it affects the girls sometimes. I think a lot of people are retroactive and not proactive about it. My daughters have their father around and have always had him around, and you just even can see it. You know what I mean? I grew up
Yeah.
without my dad around, but even one of the biggest benefits I've found is because she is just constantly within the presence of male energy or just having a man around. She also has male cousins who she has a good bond with, because she's a
Mhm.
gamer and she likes anime as well, so they bond on that, of course. But her friends in her age group are like see boys differently. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's so different. Like I think because she's just had that around, she doesn't see them like, oh, it's a boy, he's so cute. Like she's just not. She's like, oh,
Right.
it's a dude. You want to play like Minecraft or something? Like, what's up? Like, it's just already so different for her because she's already had a good opportunity to make bonds, emotional bonds, unrelated to desirability or anything with men before she gets of age. And I think that's so important. And I think a lot of people miss that. Like, the girls I know who don't have male energy around or have boys that they can be friends with in younger years, once they hit teenage or when they get in that competitive mindset, it happens really early, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I saw it coming out of some girls around like 11, 10, 11. They start, oh, I have a crush on this boy. I mean, one of my 8-year-old nieces is like, she wants a boyfriend. Like, it starts really early. And I think some of that is just because she doesn't have any experience with them, so they become what the TV tells her they are, which is on most TV shows, boys are boyfriends. And
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
unfortunate. So I just think it just can't be spoken like how important it is to have that energy around them early. So even if the father is not around, I think even just having that, like uncles, like beautifully animated said, like having that around is so important. So
Mhm.
yeah.
No, I agree with you. I want to get this comment because Sim had a question for the ladies. And shout out to Quantum. Sorry I didn't greet you when you came in. I know people were talking when you first came in, but I wanted to make sure I greeted you for sure. Question for the ladies. If the stepdad you've been with for at least 5 years, and I can't bring the comment up on the screen. If the stepdad you've been with for at least 5 years, but you and him separated, but still cool, and he wants to be in your kid's life, a real dad's not around, should you let him? So you were there was a stepdad for your children for 5 years, but you're no longer together. Would you allow the stepdad to remain in your children's lives after you separated if you wanted to?
I mean, if he's their dad, he's their dad. I don't see the problem.
Yeah. Again, he's not the biological. That was the question, I guess, because it's not the biological father. He's just only the father by marriage, but you're no longer married. You're separated.
How long were you married? He said 5 years.
5 years.
So how old is the child? Because one, like, depending on the age of the child, sometimes that
they had
5
their own
years
relationship.
means a lot different. Like,
Yeah.
if the child is 5 and he's been in her life 5 years, he is dad. So like,
Yeah.
of
Right.
course.
Right.
But if the child's like 18 now and he came when she was 13, she might not see him as, that in the same way. So it'll be kind of what capacity does she want to maintain the relationship. So
Well, it's
for
definitely
me,
on the child. Yeah.
right, yeah, at that point. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
if she's 13, if she wants to maintain that relationship with him, by all means. But so I think it kind of would just depend on the age. But yeah, of course, if he's dad, if he's been the dad, I know my bonus
I'm glad you
baby.
brought that up because
Yeah.
I didn't think to say that because I'm like, well, it's obvious.
Yeah, no, because
But
like
yeah, no, you're right.
my stepdaughter, who I'll say my bonus baby, her mom was raised by another man who's not her biological father, and that's her dad to her. Like even in
Mhm.
adulthood, like she knows her biological dad as well. But yeah, they still have a very close relationship. So yeah, I think it happens, and yeah, I
I
don't see
like the
why not.
new term that has been born, the bonus parents, like the bonus mom and the bonus dad instead of step, because everything horrible has been linked to stepdad and
You're right.
stepmom, especially growing up watching the Disney. It's horrible.
The wicked stepmother.
Yeah, she doesn't call me stepmom. I think even when she has to, she's like, that feels weird. She calls me like mommy, and then my
Yeah.
first name, and bonus mom. So we don't even use step, only if I have to, like legally, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like with my sister, like that. We adopted each other in high school, basically. Just the best of friends or whatever. And her mom is mama, so mama first name, whatever. And that's the way we rock.
No, I definitely appreciate that perspective. Was there anything else before we get ready to go out of here, ladies? Before we head up out, is there anything else that you guys, ladies, wanted to say about the conversation, about anything at all? Just get your
I had a question for y'all, both of you and Mandrell, because y'all
what's up.
you kind of talked about Art and Bree, or like these men who are taking on these, like maybe they end up with a wife who's willing to be submissive to their vision and they take
But
it
they ain't
on.
ready.
Yeah, and they start to crack under the pressure. What do you think is the best response of a woman who, like, you followed him and you see he's starting to crack under the pressure, but you're like, I want to support you. Like, what would you say? What would you have said to someone like Bree if you started to see that, like, oh, he's cracking, and she's like, I'm like, his ego is kind of starting to be hurt because he's
That's the
like trying
problem.
all these things and he's like failing. With Art, he was just like trying and trying and trying, and he probably
Mhm.
got to a very fragile space. Maybe he didn't act out violently, but he just shut down. So, like,
Yep.
what do you say to those women? Like,
You want to go first, Mandrell? Go ahead.
I would say support him as best you can. If I'm understanding the question, are we saying that a man comes in leading, but the pressure's too much,
Mhm.
and he's cracking?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she might see warning signs of it, like before the either snap and murder the whole family or just shut down like Art did.
Oh yeah,
That happens.
that's when
What
that's when your nurturing superpowers need to swing in that. You need to swing in action with that. Okay, it's time to punch. It's time to punch the clock, ladies.
Oh boy,
it's time to punch the clock because he's going to need you for a support system. You're supposed to be his outlet if it's your husband now, or a serious boyfriend, that you're considering marrying. Yeah, you have to swing in action with that one.
So what does that look like? I mean, like, support, because like obviously she would want to support him. She's submissive. She like believes in his vision. She's just seeing that maybe he's like struggling with it. So what would that look like? I guess more specifically.
I think it would look like this. You talk to him, about start with questions. What's going on? How can I help? He'll say nothing. Okay, and of course, because he don't want to bother you with it, but find out something about it that either you can help him with the project, or if he's the type that like has his pride about it and he wants to do it on his own, find some other way every now and again to take his mind off of it, because he's beating himself over the head with it. And sometimes to get inspiration, we need to just step back away from it for a while and then get back to it. We need to step back, we need to take it back, let's take a step back, take a breather, and don't talk at him. Talk to him.
Yeah.
Your tone and everything is going to matter. You have to take that nurturing, caring tone with him. That's when the nurturing of your husband comes into play. You don't have to talk to him about that, but do something to distract him and keep his mind off of it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I said, like do things together, like go for a hike, go for a picnic, do something romantic. You do it. You come out of your pocket and you do it. Take him out on a date.
Yeah.
Do something nice for him. And if you see this thing is really getting to him, do these things every now and again, so this problem doesn't balloon up into something terrible.
Right. And when it gets to the critical zone where you're like, we need outside help, but he's not able to, maybe because of how society tells him a man should be, maybe he's not able to or willing to accept needed help. What do you think should be done?
Well, in that case, you messed up 5 moves ago. Okay. You never should have let it get to that point. But in that case, then you have to be his counselor. You have to. Now, how open and candid he's going to be with you, that's on him. That's a different story. But that's your job.
Well, no.
Here's the thing. He's got to do it for you. In turn, you have to return that favor in kind, ladies. Yes, that's a part of it. Especially if you're married. Because at the end of my view on marriage is this: at the end of the day, if there's no one else on the planet, there's she and I. The two of us. We all we got. Period.
That's true. I want
So
Rashawn to answer it. I kind of maybe I do want to, but I for the situation specifically, because that's the one I started with. You're in a fifth wheel camper with your 7 kids. You can't get your house done because you don't know how to build a house, but you're like, I'm gonna build us a house. He already fucking up. We already know that. He tripping. Like, you gonna build a house, you ain't got the skills yet. Your brother comes in and
I was
say,
about
you
to
know
say
what? Your
that.
brother comes in who's a real estate investor. He buys homes anyway. He's like, hey, oh, sorry. I was thinking about buying this house over here in the community, y'all in the area y'all kind of already stay in. I'll get y'all the house. Y'all stay in it. He has all the time to finish the house. He says no, don't accept that. I'm gonna get it done. Do you think what should happen? Does she just kind of and all of y'all can answer that because this is something I asked Rashawn in the Discord when we were talking about it, but
That's what
I'm
you're
curious to
saying.
know how y'all see it.
You have to explain to him what because his pride is getting in the way.
Right.
When he says that, that's not ego, that's pride. Well, who am I? What kind of man am I if my lady has to step in and take care of this? This is something I should be able to handle. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to him and let him know that it's okay if he doesn't. You let him know that this is something that you really want. You can't chastise him. Let him know that this is something you really want. You want this other builder to build a house. That's what you want, And
Right.
you have to let him know that it's okay if he doesn't build a house. You prefer that one. Not that I don't like what you got, but my preference is that. I really would like you to work with this over here. And it's okay. That's key. You have to let him know it's
Just
okay.
reassure him that
Yeah,
you don't see
reassure
him
him.
differently.
Yeah, you
because
don't
he's
see him
different.
differently. You don't judge him. That is key. Because that's what's making his pride come into play. That's what's making him nervous and uneasy.
Right.
If I don't do this, she's gonna see me in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
All men fear this.
Right.
All of us do. No matter how strong you are, unless you just don't care about the woman, every man fears that.
Hey, real quick, give me a second, Truth, man. What's up, Truth? How you feeling, bro?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Doing good, man. Thank you for coming up here. I just want to answer the question real quick, and
Yes,
I'm going to
sir.
step out and let y'all have y'all's conversation. But I put down a caveat to what Mandrell's saying, because what Mandrell's saying is all real. It's all true. But the caveat is that unwilling or unable to seek help or accept help. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he's unwilling or unable to seek or accept help, he's gone fully into himself. That's that ego, pride, whichever word you want to use for it, it's still problematic. He separated himself from the unit and now is solely focused on how he feels and how it's going to make him feel to accept the help, which means he's discounted the value of fixing things for the family or the partnership if it's just a husband and wife. He's now focused on how he feels about accepting help. He'll let people suffer so that he doesn't have to accept help or look bad. So that's a problem as a partnership. That's if even if you took it out of a marriage, if that's a friendship, if you're going to allow me to suffer physically, financially, in any capacity, so that you save face publicly or privately, that's problematic in any type of relationship. So at that point, if a conversation doesn't correct that behavior and he's like, oh, you're right, at that point, you got to do what you got to do, especially if you have children.
Right.
Any good parent would say, put the life of my child above myself, in my opinion. That's my opinion. If you don't have a partner that would say, put the life of our children above me, then that's also a bad partner. So at the point that he's risking the family or the marriage for some selfish ego or pride thing, that's the point where you have to start looking out. And you start with the conversation, like Mandrell said, distraction, encouragement. I would also be a reminder of Pat. Oh no, we've done so much together. Remember the things we've done, because everybody has to remember, and we forget when we're in an emotional state. Our minds just stop working. And you also have to sometimes put things in perspective. What's important? Remind them what's important. Right now, it really feels like to me that you're putting your ego above the health and welfare of this family. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. If that's not the case, tell me and show me that that's not it. Is there a way that I can show up that would help you? Is there something I can take off your plate? And maybe women are good at resource allocation. Women are good at resource allocation. Maybe I'll let the house look a mess because I'm going to spend more time in the nurturing. I'm just going to spend more time, or I'll help you make some calls, or whatever it is. Because again, if the roles were reversed, like Mandrell said, if a man is not willing to sacrifice some things, some inconveniences to do whatever is necessary for the benefit of the family, he's going to be looked at as a failure. So if we don't have that same standard for the mothers or the women or the wives, that's problematic. If you're not willing to do everything you can for the relationship, you don't really want that relationship.
Right.
But I do believe the children who are defenseless and cannot go into the world on their own have to supersede me or my partner. That's, those are my caveats. But I want to get Truth in. What's up, big homie?
My man. As always, I appreciate you. I told you I was going to make sure I step over here this year, get this good feeding over here. And as always, it's been a great show. Love the insight from Mandrell. As always, good to see you beautifully and Bree. So, fill me before I answer, because everything that Mandrell said and everything that Arshan said is 100% correct. Can you fill me in with the details? Is so? Is this a married couple? Number one, I need to know that.
Yes.
So they've been married.
Yeah, they've been married for a while. They have
Long
7
time.
kids. Yeah.
So they've been married for a while. Okay, so you're saying for a while. So she basically knows this man.
Yep.
Okay. So so that's kind of a big problem. Okay, so since she knows him, and they've been together this long, and they are married. Sad to say, this is something she's got to wait out. She's got to wait out, even though he is exactly what Arshawn is saying. That is no doubt. He's being an a-hole. He's thinking about not the family. He's thinking about himself. With that being said, now goes into what Mandrell was saying, because they are a unit. And this is why it is, for better or for worse. This is why you have to be careful at who you choose, because this is it. This is ball game. Now, but this is when you actually get what is called your marriage stripes, because now we're in a tough spot, and this can either make us or break us. So yeah, she's going to have to probably deal with what I call, greasing the egg. She's going to have to do everything to boost that man up to help him become the man she needs him to be. The man he probably right now, he don't even feel like a man right now, tell you the truth. Hopefully, if he is a decent man. If he is a decent man, when we get like this, we feel like crap. Especially our baby is suffering. Our baby, my wife, ain't nobody gonna be harder on us than ourselves. That's my baby. She in here, she not happy. So, but what we need from our baby then is the 4 needs of a man is respect, sex, companionship, domesticated lifestyle. Like Mandrell said, it's time to punch the clock. Now it's time for you to be Superwoman. I don't know how long in this season you got to be that, but you got to be that, because this is for your family. He's included. So now, sad to say, the roles is probably going to reverse right now. This is when you got to be that backbone. You got to cover that man's 6. So the main thing I said, I'm going to make it real simple. Provide him with sex, food, admiration, and if he does have a pride issue, give him latent help. Help him without him knowing it, so it doesn't bust his ego up.
Right.
That's good. Do y'all want to know what actually ended up happening?
Yes.
What ended up happening?
So what ended up happening was he's basically still on the land because they had like a farm, they had a homestead. He's there in the camper. He threw himself into like wilderness survival man kind of stuff. He completely tapped out on providing. Like he don't even really see the kids. She's saying like now he's seeing them like 2 times a week. Like he comes to where they are. They ended up moving. Some friends had a house that they were willing to rent to her and the kids, and so her and the kids went to the house that the friends offered to rent them. And he stayed on the land and in the camper, and she's giving him space. They didn't get divorced. They're not divorced. She's just kind of like letting him figure it out. But she's pretty much a single mom. Well, she is a single mom because he's not working. He's doing nothing. But her brother bought her the house. I think I feel like he had already kind of offered it when they were going through their stuff, but they refused because Art didn't want to do that. But now she just moved into the house her brother was offering with the kids.
And then a couple of the kids almost die or something like that.
Oh yeah, they
Like,
was
got
going
real
through
sick?
it. Like they was going through it because
Oh,
like the
wow.
farmhouse they was in had mold, so that's why they originally
Oh,
moved
my
to the
goodness.
camper, and then they needed to move, but Art decided he was going to renovate and do the mold fixing himself because it was so expensive, and he doesn't go out for work because he used to be a nurse. But when they moved out there in the country, so they had animals and stuff. So like he was doing all of that. He was taking care of the land, the animals. They had 2 twins who ended up in the NICU for like 8 months, at a hospital 2 hours away. And like they had been going through it. So like I think it all just,
Wow. So even his baby's being sick didn't shake him up out of that?
I mean, no, like they're fine now. Like the twins are like
No, I'm
almost 1
saying.
now. But
No,
no,
I'm
that
saying.
was after. Like he kind of broke after all of that. Like on the tail end of the twins being home for a while.
Okay, so that was the twins getting sick was a part of
Oh yeah. Like
him
this
going through all that. Okay,
it
gotcha.
had been compounded, like because it wasn't that
Yeah.
he was trying and he was like, it was just a lot, you're like in the wilderness, you basically in the middle of nowhere with 7 kids.
No, that's what I'm
Animals,
saying. No, that's what I'm
mold.
saying, Bree. So in the midst of everything that's going on, like the situation and everything like that, the babies got sick. You said it was mold and everything.
Yeah, the kids got sick from mold. Of course, like they live out, they have animals, they would like get hurt. He got Lyme disease, like they was going through it.
So that's what I'm saying. So in the midst of all that, none of that moved him.
I mean,
No, she was saying that's the part that was a part of
That was part of the breakdown.
Yeah,
that was a part of the breakdown.
After all of that.
Yeah, the babies got sick before he actually had the breakdown, but the babies getting sick was a part of that.
Yeah,
like it was just something. It was just one thing after another happening. The babies getting sick was a part of that.
Right. So
and after they got sick and stuff, that's when he had the breakdown.
Well,
yeah.
So what I'm saying is like, so this is basically what I'm saying. If my children got sick because of the way we're living, it wouldn't even have got that worse. That would have been a trigger,
a turning point.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, we got to live. So hey,
I think
let's get
that's
this
what
house.
actively they moved out of the farmhouse. They had the mold. It was making everybody sick. They had the camper because originally they were like, it's only going to take this long to get the house done. And then, of course, when they started doing the work, the people are like, "Oh, it's much worse than we thought. Like, you're either going to have to tear the whole house down, or it's going to be a longer. Yeah, it's going to be a longer process than we thought." So they didn't have, they weren't trying to necessarily move, and it was like a very expensive thing. So like you see them trying to problem solve over time, but I think once
but that's what you're saying, they wasn't trying to move, right?
Well, I think that once Art decided that he and his brothers were going to do the house themselves, which was the solution because his brother is a contractor. So like they were like, we're going to do this ourselves. But of course, it's taking much longer because it's just you and your brother doing a whole house renovation.
Right.
In the meantime, your family of 7 is in this thing, but they had a handle on it. But I think the brother was looking at it like, you got 7 kids in a 5th wheel camper. Like, let me just offer you this house. But I think Art was like, well, we got the animals, we got the land. Let's not just leave it so quick. I don't really think it was, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think he was he was believing the best of the situation.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. Men, we don't operate like that. We have to solve the thing. Yeah, well, we shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's called problem solving, not to take a chance. We usually move to the most effective answer. And that means my family needs to be safe. Forget my plan. Unless my plan happens in the time that is needed for my family to be safe, everything goes out. It's time for plan B. And if
Right.
plan B is not mine, it's somebody else's, we got to go to that. We have to.
Exactly.
So
I agree.
everything that Art like that's on now that the way you explained it and how it got worse, everything that
Yeah.
Arshawn said is dead on, bro. And I'm all for men and everything. That's why I said, hold up, maybe she need the what's the name, but god damn. But
yeah, like I would truth on this one wholeheartedly, man. I would have like here's the thing. I get him saying, okay, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Then me and my brother are gonna do it. But then as you saw this thing progress, you say it's gonna take way longer than we thought. You know what? It would be a lot better if we did what we could with this house enough so we can sell it and get the other house. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
By the new house. You know what I mean?
yes.
That's
Yeah,
the most
and
effective one. Yeah, and like it's like Truth said, forget my plan now. Shit
yeah.
changed.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
messed up.
Shit changed.
he definitely had a mental break though, because like people in chat like it's mental, like he's like, yeah, this is like depression, whatever. He hasn't said what he has,
Right.
but it was like a mental break. I think he just, like he definitely had a
buckled.
mental
It
break. But
happened.
Bree, he buckled. Bree a good one though. He got a good wife.
She held him down, and in
She
hindsight, she
yeah,
does not speak negatively about that
she
man.
don't.
Yeah,
I gotta
he
give
has
her
a wife.
credit because
And
every
you said
time
she's
she has
still
an
married.
opportunity to, she's still
No,
married to
she's
him,
still
but
she's still married to him. Like she don't
Oh,
every
talk
time,
bad about him. Like
never,
she's
he
still
got a
like
unicorn. He got a unicorn.
ever.
Brie a
He
real
need to
one.
get
Yeah.
himself together and get back to that baby. I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, but before we head out, I want to let everybody get some last words in. Beautifully Animated speaks. If you wouldn't mind, just get any last words on anything before we head up out.
So I push respect of children because I was the type of kid who didn't take no crap from nobody, not even the adults, not the teachers. I stood up for myself. Um, so I will say this: remember where you came from. Remember your own history, your own story, and the things that you didn't like about your situation. Do better with your kids. Don't continue the chain, break the chain.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
All right, now are you a content creator as well or a viewer?
Oh, I'm a content creator, but I'll be I'll be hopping on people's panels.
Okay. So
But
is that
my
the channel we
channel
can find
is
you at?
Beautifully Animated Speaks, where I talk about more serious stuff like relationships and things of a serious matter. And I have Beautifully Animated, which I do reviews, reactions. I do makeup. I'm trying to get into my cosplay over there.
Okay.
I do. That's my fun channel, I'll say.
Hey, I'm with it. All right. Well, I appreciate you for coming. I really enjoyed the conversation that you brought to the table. Thank you for being here. At
Thank you for having
Mandrell's
me.
invitation. Absolutely. Glad to have you. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
And Truth, my guy, man. What is your last thoughts, closing thoughts?
Man, like I said, this was a great show, and Bree added cake onto it with that story because we need more real life examples. You know what I'm saying? It lets people know that people are going through things. There are many different ways, variables, instead of the absolute way that so many people be speaking on here, like it's just a clean shot. This is, you do it this way, this is going to be the absolute outcome that this is going to happen, and that's not life. That's not life. We do need what's called patience and time. We need to understand what these things are. We need to learn how to use what I call purposeful application with these two things. They can be great things to put around your neck. They can be ornaments, or they can be a hindrance, depending on like how they play a party. Like sometimes you could be patient and expect the outcome that ain't coming, and time doesn't wait for nobody. So all these things are principal things. All these things we need to understand and respect. Um, Man, you Sean spoke about this at length last year, and I'm still going to do it. Do a series on the AMG, Authentic Man of God, because we really need a template of what a man is. And what I try to tell people is this: majority of the actual men in these spaces, we're good. I have never disrespected them, and they never disrespect me. We understand each other. It's usually a different type of dude that I don't know how they're raised. I don't know their moral compass. I don't understand them in the way I speak and how I say, certain things you're not supposed to be doing as a man. They don't understand it either. And that's usually where the clash comes in. Even though I can disagree with them, like you spoke about it earlier, they don't understand the difference between disagreement and disrespect, and they cross the line.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand men don't move like that. And then when you let them know, like, okay, so first and foremost, because I don't speak to people like that out in my daily life, I know better. You feel what I'm saying? But for some reason, when we get in these boxes, we get a little bit comfortable. And we already know when you approach a man on that type of level, it's go time. Not because somebody's tough, it's about the respect level. That's our number one need. You're going to respect me. You're going to. That's just what it is. You're going to respect me. And everything that you shared today is very important. That word dangerous, of course, comes with a bad, negative connotation. But you spoke about the positive properties, which is helping us to understand words have meaning and to absolutely use those words meaning and value. And I appreciate you guys. As always, great show. Mandrell, Arshawn, beautifully, Bree. Appreciate you guys and thank you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you, man. Make sure you check out Truth and Purpose Nexus right here on YouTube. I can pull that one up. It's an old comment, but that's the channel, Truth and Purpose Nexus, because he still does get down with the lives over there. So check him out. And Breezy Bree, give us your last words, lady.
Am I muted? Okay. It was a great show. Thanks for bringing me up. I just wanted to kind of ask y'all about this situation because I do know, like, I know the conversations tend to talk about like bad women or women who won't ever submit in the first place. But I think there are some women there are people falling in that gray area of like they have the best intentions and they move forward, trying to do it's good and like, but life is just whooping their ass. And I don't think everybody's equipped to know how to navigate when life starts whooping your ass, So it's always, I just thought it was good to hear y'all perspective on how, I do know a lot of women who have seen their husbands or spouses suffering, kind of like that silent suffering that a lot of y'all have to go through, or a lot of men, you can see it. And I've seen women who have kind of peeped that's going on, but often don't know how to help, without it's like trying to navigate a field of landmines. Like you don't really know, how to help somebody who may not have the words for, what they're even experiencing or even begin to know what they need. So that's kind of why I wanted to bring that up. But I appreciated y'all's answers. And I agree with Beautifully Animated speaks about kids. I'm respectful parenting. Apologist. Like I am firmly a practicer and believer in respectful parenting. I don't do corporal punishment. We not gonna beat our kids over here. So I agree with everything you said. But that's it.
I appreciate you, Bree. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And Dury Meta's in the building. Hi, girls here. Appreciate you for coming through. Always with the hot content. But Mandrell, my God, man, appreciate you so much for taking the chance to host this with me, man. I enjoyed switching this up. So I like to come on, man. I enjoy it. So I want to give you your opportunity, man, to give your last words on this week and let us know when your next content is dropping on BMUN or elsewhere.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for having me here. I do like having these kinds of conversations. They're much more fulfilling than other kinds of conversations, but I mean, they're insightful and they're educational, and they give people a different perspective that they may not they may not have considered before because they weren't aware of it, you know. But my final thoughts are, ladies and gentlemen, both of you, be careful as to what you witness and acknowledge as dangerous, right? Because far too often, arrogance gets mistaken for self-awareness. They see it. That means that you see a guy who's arrogant and you see a guy, you think he's self-aware because he walks in a room and, you know, and he carries on or whatever. But I mean, he's just an arrogant prick. Self-aware men don't do that. You know, we just go there, mingle, talk to people, have a good time. We're not trying to stick out. There's no point in that. You try to stick out, you're a target, number one. You know what I'm saying? We don't need all that attention. We're just meeting people. But just watch out for that. That's my final thought. Watch out for that, because I see that happen far too often, especially with women when they pick men. You pick guys, you think he's, you know, strong, you think he's dominant. No, he's in turn going to come find out he's just a dick. You know, I mean, pardon my French, but it's a fact. You know, my final thoughts that do not mistake arrogance for self-awareness. That's a cardinal rule. Stop doing that, ladies, please. Your results will be, you'll find you'll get much better results if you live by that.
All right, appreciate you, Mandrell. And your next show, are you doing anything other than the Unapologetic with Mandrell and Shushu on 9:30 Wednesdays?
Yeah, 8:30 Central. 8:30 Central. Yeah, on the Black Men Unfiltered Network. Well, I'm doing this sometimes.
Yeah, I'm talking about, like, do you have any? Yeah. I know sometimes I've heard people say they caught you on other days on other places. Like, do you have anything other routine?
No, I'm working on a YouTube channel. It's under construction.
Friday, but do you don't do anything on Fridays on Black Men Unfiltered?
Yeah, barbershop conversations. I do that.
Okay.
I do barbershop conversations.
I thought that was something else.
That's another one at 8:30, usually at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay. So if you're on the Eastern Time Zone, it's 9:30. You know, you're in Mountain, it's 7:30.
7:30. 6:30 Pacific.
Yep.
All right. Well, again, I appreciate that, Mandrell. Everybody, I want to thank you guys. I'm going to try to get Mandrell on for another one. I'm also going to try to get Yella in here, but Yella's schedule is definitely different than a lot of ours. I want to get Bree will be back in here Tuesday for the ISM show. We'll be talking about. I'm pulling a pivot. We're talking about the dark triad of narcissism, psychopathy, and Dag, Bree, help me. What's that third one? It left me. But there are 3 negative traits that a lot of people get labeled. But I am going to, because Candidan brought in consumerism, because I believe that consumerism is feeding a lot of our maladapted dysfunction. Machiavellianism is the third one. That's the dark triad in psychology. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to try to connect it to consumerism. And I should have some video, like some visual evidence, or, you know, some video like I try to do. I try to have somebody else that's smarter than me kind of connect the dots, and I just connect their dots to other dots. That's all I'm doing. So I want to bring in consumerism. Capitalism is it's creating the traits in our society and culture that tend towards narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. So that's going to be next week's ISM show. Check that out on Tuesday, February, I believe. No, that's 31st. January 31st. So January 31st, that's me and Bree on Tuesday. I'm going to, again, get the date for Mandrell, because I'm not going to be next Thursday. I won't be able to do this next Thursday. I may see if Mandrell could do it on Friday, maybe 1 hour earlier, but I'll see. But I'll talk to you, Mandrell, and let you know. Everybody, I really appreciate y'all. I forgot I'm not on Twitch, so I don't have to do a raid. The Real Dark Triad. I like that. That's the name. The Dark Triad. Bree, Rashawn, and Yella. I like it. I wish I could bring that comment up. Oh, wait. The comment started working again. Wow. Okay.
Well, it sure did. Because I was back here looking, and you're right. The comments just stopped. There. They weren't moving.
Then all of a sudden it said 76.
But then I went to earlier you said it, because I went to YouTube as well. You know what I'm saying? And I looked at it, I was like, he's right. The comments they're popping in YouTube, but in StreamYard, nothing.
Yeah.
But you're not the only one. Another guy was talking about his StreamYard was messing up too. You know, so I guess there's something going on with StreamYard, not necessarily your hardware or anything like that.
Because above me now the counter is back. The view counter, it wasn't there for most of the show, but now it's back. When the comments came back, that came back. So StreamYard is doing something weird. But everybody, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Most people said they did. I really appreciate hearing that feedback in real time. That really helps boost me. So again, you will see us back. And again, I want to try to get Yellow, another one of my main men up in the building. So definitely we will be doing some more. Come on, man.
What are we talking about? Come on, man. 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 How many push-ups you want to do here, pal? Oh, come on, man. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man. What is he doing? Come on, man. Give me a little break here. But everybody knows who this guy is. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, man. Get a life.
Come on, son.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Come on, man. I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. You're making money. Come on. I mean, come on, man. Come on.
Don't do drugs. If you're doing it, stop it. Get some help.